Toby never believed in folktales. As a historian, his job was to separate myths from reality, to uncover the truth hidden beneath centuries of superstition. But standing alone in the shadowy depths of the cove, staring at the moonlit waves, he felt something watching him. It was supposed to be a joke. A harmless reenactment of an old legend, a foolish prince, a forbidden love, a cursed kiss. Laughing to himself, he mimicked the ritual, pressing his lips to the salty air, whispering the name of the mermaid from the story. Soraya. The wind stilled. The ocean shifted. Then, something kissed him back. A cold, electric sensation rushed through his veins. His breath hitched. His skin prickled. The waves surged forward as if reaching for him, and for a fleeting second, he swore he heard a whisper beneath the water. "You have returned to me." The cove fell silent. Toby stumbled back, shaking his head. Just the wind. Just his imagination. But as he turned to leave, something strange caught his eye, a shimmer of silver on his hand. Scales. Tiny, glistening scales, blooming across his skin. His heart slammed against his ribs. His legs weakened beneath him. He clawed at his arm, but the scales wouldn't come off. And then, deep in the water, something moved. A pair of glowing blue eyes rose from the darkness. Watching. Waiting. Toby's breath came in shallow gasps. His mind screamed at him to run, but somehow, he knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a coincidence. He had awakened something ancient. He had called her name. And now, she was coming for him. Before we dive deeper into this epic tale, we'd love to know where you are watching from. Tell us in the comments. And if you love high-stakes fantasy filled with mermaids, magic, love, and sacrifice, don't just watch, be part of our adventure. Like this video, share it with someone who loves powerful stories, and hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow, we've got an extra special story lined up for you, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. The waves crashed gently against the shore as Toby stepped out of the wooden canoe, his feet sinking into the wet sand. The salty breeze kissed his face, and the scent of the ocean filled his lungs. He had traveled far from Nsili, his home village, to this quiet coastal town known as Irako Bay. Toby was not a fisherman, nor was he a trader like most who visited this town. He was a historian, a seeker of lost stories. He had spent years listening to elders, writing down ancient tales, and uncovering forgotten myths. And now, his search had brought him here, to a legend whispered for generations. It was the story of Prince Boma and Soraya, the mermaid who had loved him. The people of Irako Bay believed that once, long ago, a young prince had fallen in love with the spirit of the sea. It was said that he had betrayed his people for her, and for his foolishness, he was cursed. Some claimed he had drowned, others said he had transformed, never to return. Toby had heard many folk tales, but something about this one felt different. The details were too vivid, the descriptions too real. And deep in his heart, he had the strangest feeling that this story was waiting for him. As he walked through the town, he noticed the way people glanced at him. He was an outsider here, and outsiders were not always welcome. But he was not afraid. He had learned that stories held power, and those who guarded them often did so for a reason. He made his way to the home of Elder Bakar, the oldest man in the village. If anyone knew the truth, it would be him. Elder Bakar's hut was small, built from woven palm fronds and clay, yet it carried the weight of centuries. The old man sat by the fire, his skin wrinkled like dried bark, his eyes filled with the wisdom of many years. "You have come for the story," he said before Toby could even speak. Toby nodded. "I want to know about the prince and the mermaid." The elder chuckled, shaking his head. "Stories are dangerous, young one. Especially those that still whisper in the wind." But he told the tale anyway. Long ago, in the great kingdom of Zinda, there lived a young prince named Boma. He was strong, proud, and destined to rule. But his heart was restless, and he often wandered to the sea, where he would sit on the rocks and dream of a world beyond the waves. One evening, as the sun melted into the ocean, he heard a song. A voice, as soft as the wind, as deep as the sea. It was Soraya, a mermaid whose beauty was unlike anything of this world. Her hair shimmered like moonlight, her eyes held the mystery of the ocean's depths, and her voice could make even the coldest heart weep. They fell in love. But their love was forbidden. The gods of the sea had long warned against such unions. The land and the water were not meant to mix. Yet Boma did not listen. Every night, he returned to her, and under the moon, they whispered dreams of a future together. But love alone was not enough. One night, Soraya performed an ancient ritual, a kiss beneath the full moon, a promise made with the ocean as their witness. In that moment, Boma's fate was sealed. The sea claimed him, and his body began to change. His legs weakened, his skin shimmered, and the waves called his name. Frightened, he fled. But the curse had already begun. He tried to fight it, Elder Bakar said, his voice quiet. But the sea does not forget. It always takes what belongs to it. Toby shivered. The fire crackled between them, but he felt cold. And what happened to him? The elder's eyes darkened. Some say he drowned, his body lost to the sea. Others say he still waits beneath the waves, neither man nor fish, cursed for all eternity. A silence stretched between them, heavy as the ocean before a storm. Toby swallowed. And Soraya? The elder sighed. She still waits. She has never stopped waiting. The next morning, Toby walked along the coastline, his mind replaying the elder's words. He had come here searching for a story, but something about this tale unsettled him. As he climbed over jagged rocks and waded through shallow waters, he spotted something unusual, a hidden cove, just as described in the legend. A crescent-shaped pool, untouched by time, surrounded by towering cliffs. He stepped forward, his heart pounding. At the center of the cove was a smooth, black rock, half submerged in water. He could almost picture Prince Boma sitting there, waiting for his love. A foolish thought struck him, and he laughed. A kiss beneath the full moon, huh? He muttered. Let's see if the sea still remembers. He climbed onto the rock, standing at its highest point. With a dramatic bow, he whispered, "O great ocean, I, too, seek the love of the sea." Then, with a grin, he pressed his lips to the air, imitating a kiss. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the waves surged. A gust of wind howled through the cove, and the air turned thick with the scent of salt. The sky darkened, though the sun still shone. A deep hum filled the air, vibrating in his chest. Toby stumbled back, his breath quickening. The water below swirled, forming shapes, patterns, faces. Then, as suddenly as it began, the ocean stilled. Toby let out a shaky laugh. All right. That was weird. But as he climbed down from the rock, he didn't notice the faint shimmer on his fingertips. Or the scales beginning to bloom on his skin. That night, Toby slept uneasily. Dreams filled his mind, visions of another life, another name. A palace by the sea, a love that burned brighter than the sun. He woke with a gasp, his body aching. He pushed the blankets aside, rubbing his arms, then froze. His skin was different. A faint silver sheen shimmered beneath the morning light. His fingers trembled as he touched his leg, feeling something rough and unfamiliar. Scales. He scrambled to his feet, breathing hard. "No," he whispered. This is a dream." But as he looked into the mirror, he saw something that made his blood run cold. His eyes. They were no longer just brown. They held the deep, endless blue of the ocean. And somewhere, far beyond the shore, a voice sang his name.
"This is just the beginning. Let me know if you want me to continue."
Toby stumbled back from the mirror, his breath coming in ragged gasps. His hands trembled as he rubbed at his skin, hoping, praying, that the shimmer was a trick of the light. But the scales remained. Smooth. Cool. Glinting silver blue. "This isn't real," he whispered. "It's a dream. Just a dream." But as he moved, he felt it, an unfamiliar heaviness in his legs, an aching pull in his chest. And worse, beneath it all, a whisper. A call. It was not spoken, yet it rang in his mind, deep and steady, like waves against the shore. "Come back to me." Toby squeezed his eyes shut. He had spent years searching for lost stories, but he had never believed in magic. Myths were just that, myths. Warnings wrapped in fantasy. But now his body was changing, and the voice in his mind did not feel like a hallucination. The ocean was calling him. Shaking, he forced himself to breathe. He needed answers. He needed logic. He needed someone who could explain what was happening to him. He needed to go back to Elder Bakar. The villagers of Irako Bay were already awake when Toby arrived at Elder Bakar's hut. Fishermen mended their nets, children chased each other along the shore, and women balanced clay pots on their heads as they walked toward the well. The scent of roasting plantains and smoked fish filled the air. But Toby barely noticed. He pulled his sleeves down, hiding the scales on his arms as he hurried to the elder's hut. He found the old man sitting outside, grinding herbs in a wooden bowl. Bakar looked up, his wise eyes scanning Toby's face, and in that moment, the elder's expression shifted. "You have done something foolish," Bakar murmured. Toby's throat tightened. I only pretended," he stammered. "I stood on the rock. I joked about the kiss. I didn't think." "You didn't think the ocean would listen," Bakar finished for him. "But it did." Toby sat down heavily on the stool beside the elder. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. The elder sighed, setting his bowl aside. "You are becoming what you once were." Toby frowned. "What I?" Then he froze. The story. Prince Boma. The reincarnation. His blood ran cold. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." Elder Bakar studied him. "Your name is different. Your face is different. But your soul has not changed." Toby swallowed hard, his pulse pounding in his ears. "You're saying I'm Boma," the elder said simply. The world seemed to tilt beneath Toby's feet. His head throbbed with memories that weren't his. A silver moon reflecting on dark waves. A woman with hair like woven silk. A voice that hummed like the tide. "Saraya. Come back to me." Toby clenched his fists. "Tell me how to stop it." Elder Bakar shook his head. "The curse has already begun. The ocean does not take back what it claims." "But I'm not him," Toby protested. "I have a life. A family. I don't want to turn into a mermaid." Bakar's gaze was steady. Toby flinched. The elder sighed. "There may be a way. But it will not be easy." Toby swallowed. "Tell me." The elder hesitated. Then, in a low voice, he said, "You must seek the diviner of the deep forest. If anyone knows how to break an ocean's curse, it is him." Toby exhaled sharply. He had never been to the deep forest, but he had heard of the diviner who lived there. A man with knowledge older than the rivers. "If I go to him," Toby said slowly, "can I stop this before it's too late?" Elder Bakar's gaze was unreadable. "That depends on what the ocean wants from you." A shiver ran down Toby's spine. He didn't know what frightened him more, the idea that the ocean had already chosen his fate. Or the idea that deep down, a part of him wanted to return. Toby wasted no time. He packed a small bag, dried plantains, a flask of water, and a knife for protection. He didn't know what awaited him in the deep forest, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. The journey would take 2 days on foot. He needed to leave before the transformation got worse. As he tied his bag shut, a gust of wind rushed through his hut, carrying with it the scent of salt. He froze. The faint hum of a song drifted through the air. Soft. Haunting. Come back to me. Toby clenched his jaw, forcing himself to ignore it. He grabbed his bag and stepped outside. But as he left the village behind, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching him. And beneath his sleeve, his scales glowed softly in the morning sun. The path to the deep forest was long and winding, stretching beyond the hills that bordered Irako Bay. Few dared to travel this way, for the forest was old, older than the kingdoms, older than the rivers, older than the first stories ever told. It was a place of forgotten spirits and unseen eyes. Toby had read about it in history scrolls, but no words could prepare him for the silence that swallowed him as he stepped beneath the towering trees. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Shafts of golden sunlight streamed through the canopy, but the deeper he walked, the less light reached the ground. His breath was uneven, his mind restless. His legs ached, not from the journey, but from something inside him. Something shifting. And then there was the whisper. Soft. Gentle. Like fingers tracing along his skin. Come back to me. Toby's hands clenched into fists. Leave me alone, he muttered under his breath. But the voice did not belong to the wind. It belonged to the sea. He forced himself forward. He needed to find the diviner of the deep forest before it was too late. Night had fallen by the time Toby reached the diviner's hut, a small, crooked structure built from woven branches and dried palm fronds. Strange charms dangled from the trees around it, beads and bones strung together with twine. A single clay lamp flickered outside the hut. Toby hesitated. Then, summoning his courage, he stepped forward and knocked. The door creaked open almost instantly. A man stood in the shadows, his long, graying locks hanging over his shoulders. His eyes gleamed in the dim light, sharp and knowing. You've come too late, the diviner murmured. Toby's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? The old man gestured for him to enter. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of burning herbs. Small clay bowls lined the walls, each filled with mysterious powders and roots. You are changing, the diviner said, studying Toby closely. You can feel it, can't you? The pull of the water. The ache in your bones. The dreams of another life. Toby swallowed hard. Can you stop it? The diviner sighed. Curses are not so easily undone, child. Toby's hands curled into fists. There has to be a way. The diviner was silent for a long moment. Then, he turned and pulled a small wooden box from a shelf. He opened it, revealing a single blue stone, smooth and glowing faintly in the firelight. This is a moonstone of the tides, he said. A gift from the sea gods, said to hold power over those claimed by the ocean. It may slow the transformation, but it will not stop it. Toby stared at the stone. What do I have to do? The diviner placed the stone in Toby's hand. Keep it with you. It will hold back the change, for now. But there is only one way to truly break the curse. Toby's throat tightened. How? The diviner's gaze darkened. You must return to the ocean and confront Soraya. Toby flinched. Soraya. The mermaid who had waited for him. The love he had forgotten. He shook his head. No. I can't. The diviner sighed. Then the sea will take you. Whether you are ready or not. Toby closed his fingers around the moonstone, his mind racing. He had come seeking a way out. But now, he had a choice to make. Would he fight for his human life? Or face the ocean and the love that had waited for centuries? Toby left the diviner's hut with the moonstone tucked safely in his pocket. The old man had given him a warning, but no real solution. He didn't want to go back to the sea. He didn't want to see Soraya. But the choice might not be his to make. As he walked through the forest, a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him. His vision blurred. His knees buckled. He fell to the ground, gasping. Pain shot through his legs, sharp, twisting. He gritted his teeth, trying to push himself up, but something was wrong. His skin burned. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. And then he heard it again. "Come back to me." The voice was no longer a whisper. It was stronger. Closer. Toby's hands trembled as he lifted them. His fingers had grown webbed. His nails had turned a deep, pearlescent blue. The transformation was speeding up. The moonstone glowed faintly in his pocket, fighting against the magic, but Toby knew one thing for certain. Time was running out. He could not run from the sea forever. And sooner or later, the ocean would claim him. Toby's breath came in short, sharp gasps as he pressed the moonstone against his chest, willing it to halt the transformation. But the stone's glow was faint, flickering like a candle in the wind. It didn't feel like enough. The pain in his legs was spreading, crawling up his body like vines, tugging at his skin, reshaping him. The diviner's words echoed in his mind, "The sea will take you, whether you are ready or not." Toby's heart raced. He had to go back. He had to confront Soraya, the woman from his forgotten past. But how? How could he face a love that was centuries old? A love that had condemned him to this cursed fate. The voice in his mind grew louder, more urgent. "Come back to me." It wasn't just a voice. It was a pull. An ache deep inside, like his very soul was tied to the ocean, and the ocean was calling him home. He stumbled to his feet, his legs shaking beneath him. His hands were slick with sweat, but as he gazed down, he saw the scales creeping up his arms, the transformation deepening. He could feel the ocean beneath his skin now, the cool, endless pull of the water. "No, no, no," he whispered, his voice a desperate plea. But it was no use. The curse had already marked him. There was no escaping the sea. The moonstone pulsed in his pocket, sending a gentle warmth through his body, but it was not enough. Not enough to hold back the ocean's call. Toby wiped the sweat from his brow, and, with a shaky breath, he turned toward the distant shore. Toby walked quickly, his mind racing. The forest felt like a maze now, each step taking him farther from the village but closer to the sea. His chest tightened with every step he took, and the pain in his legs had become unbearable. The scales on his body shimmered under the moonlight as they continued to spread, wrapping around his body like vines tightening around a tree. It wasn't just his body that was changing. His memories were starting to slip away. Faces he had once known, his mother, his father, his friends, began to blur, fading like a dream on the edge of his mind. But Soraya. Soraya's face was sharp and clear. Her eyes, the color of the ocean at twilight. Her voice, soft as the wind. Her smile, warm as the sun. Toby reached the coastline just as the sun dipped below the horizon. The air was thick with salt and the scent of the sea, and he could hear the waves crashing against the shore. And then, through the dark, he saw her. Soraya. She stood at the edge of the water, her long hair flowing around her like seaweed. Her eyes were locked on him, a deep sadness in her gaze. She was beautiful, too beautiful for the world of men. Her body glowed faintly in the moonlight, her silvery tail flickering beneath the surface of the water. Toby's heart pounded in his chest. It felt like his very soul was reaching for her. He stepped forward, the sand cool beneath his bare feet. "Soraya," he whispered, the name feeling like it had been carved into his bones. Her expression softened, and she stepped closer, her voice a low hum in the night. "Boma," she whispered, her voice as soft as the waves. "You've finally come back to me." Toby swallowed. His throat was dry. I didn't know." Her eyes held an ancient sadness. "You didn't remember, but your heart knew. The ocean never forgets, Boma. And neither do I." Toby reached out to her, but the closer he got, the more the transformation sped up. His legs felt weak, and his body trembled. He could feel the water calling to him. His skin had already changed. Smooth, shiny scales were now visible along his arms and chest, and his legs burned as they began to merge into a tail. "No," he gasped. "I don't want this. I don't want to become one of them. Please, Soraya, help me." Soraya's face tightened, her sadness deepening. "I cannot undo what has been done, Boma. You and I are bound by the ocean. It was always meant to be this way." Toby shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. "But I was happy. I had a life. I had a future." The mermaid's voice softened. "You still have a future, Boma. But it is not the one you knew. It is the one we must create together." Toby's vision blurred as the pain in his body reached a peak. His legs were no longer his own. His tail was growing, his bones shifting, his muscles aching as they transformed. He stumbled forward, collapsing into the shallow waves, his tail fully formed now, the scales glimmering like liquid silver. Soraya knelt beside him, her hand brushing his face gently. "The curse cannot be undone, my love. But we can still be together, in the ocean. You do not have to fight this. Come with me, Boma. Let me show you the life we were meant to have." Toby's mind spun. The pull of the sea was so strong now, so overwhelming. He could feel the waves tugging at him, urging him to surrender. To let go of everything. To embrace the ocean and the love he had forgotten. But something deep inside him resisted. He could feel his human memories slipping away, the life he had once known fading like a distant dream. "Come back to me." Soraya's voice called to him again. And for a moment, just a brief moment, he wanted to give in. He wanted to let the ocean take him completely. But the moonstone in his pocket pulsed brightly, sending a surge of warmth through his body. It was a small flame against the storm of transformation. Toby clutched the stone tightly in his hand, feeling its power. He could feel the strength of the human life he had left behind. He was torn between two worlds. Between the ocean and the land. Between love and the memory of a life he no longer remembered. But one thing was certain. If he didn't make a choice soon, he would never remember anything again. Toby gasped for breath as the ocean lapped at his half-transformed body. His tail was heavy, glistening under the moonlight, but his arms still felt human. The moonstone in his grip pulsed with warmth, a flickering reminder of the life he was leaving behind. Soraya knelt beside him in the shallow waters, her luminous eyes filled with longing. She reached for him, fingertips brushing his cheek. "Boma, my love," she whispered. "You don't have to fight anymore. The ocean has already claimed you. Come with me, and I will show you the world beneath the waves." Toby shuddered at her touch. A part of him wanted to surrender. The pull of the sea was irresistible, it promised freedom, eternity, and a love that had waited for centuries. But another part of him still clung to the world above. He thought of the life he had built, the books, the history, the stories of the past that he had dedicated himself to uncovering. He thought of his mother's laughter, the warm scent of spiced yam porridge from his childhood home, the feel of solid earth beneath his feet. Could he really let all of that go? Toby clenched the moonstone tighter, his nails digging into his palm. I don't know if I can," he whispered. His voice trembled with uncertainty. Soraya's gaze softened. "I have waited lifetimes for you, Boma. Do you not remember? You were mine, once. And I was yours. We were happy together, before the curse." Toby closed his eyes, and for the first time, he let the memories come. Visions flickered through his mind like fragments of a forgotten dream, dancing in the moonlight with Soraya, her laughter like waves crashing on the shore. Holding her beneath the water, her touch warm despite the cold of the ocean depths. Whispered promises, stolen kisses. And then, the curse. The rage of the sea god, the punishment for their forbidden love. The slow transformation, the helplessness as his human form faded away. The sorrow in Soraya's eyes as she was forced to watch him change. Toby gasped as he returned to the present, his heart hammering in his chest. Soraya watched him closely. "You remember, don't you?" Tears burned in Toby's eyes. I remember pieces. But I also remember my human life. I remember my family. My dreams. I don't know if I can leave all of that behind. Soraya's expression darkened, sadness creeping into her voice. If you resist, the transformation will be painful. The curse will not stop. The sea will take you anyway, but it will be cruel in its patience. Toby's breath hitched. He looked down at his shimmering tail. He had fought the transformation, but he could already feel himself losing. A decision had to be made. Would he fight for his humanity? Or would he surrender to the love that had spanned centuries? The waves surged around him, whispering in the voice of the ocean itself. Choose, Boma. Toby's grip on the moonstone tightened as his heart pounded. He had to decide. But was he ready? Before Toby could speak, the air around them shifted. The gentle lapping of the waves became violent, crashing against the shore with unnatural force. The wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers that made the hair on Toby's arms rise. Something ancient had awakened. Soraya's expression changed instantly. She turned toward the ocean, her glowing eyes scanning the dark waters. No, she breathed. Not now. Toby pushed himself up, his tail dragging awkwardly in the sand. What's happening? A deep, guttural voice rumbled through the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. The balance has been broken. The sea churned violently, and from the depths, a figure began to rise, massive, towering, its form shifting between mist and shadow. Toby's breath caught in his throat. He knew this presence. He had felt it in his dreams. It was Njoku, the sea god. The very one who had cursed him all those years ago. The god's glowing eyes locked onto Toby. You were given a choice once before, Boma, Njoku rumbled. You defied me then. And now, you hesitate again. Toby's entire body tensed. I never asked for this, he shouted. I didn't know who I was. Njoku's laughter was like a crashing wave, deep and unforgiving. And yet, fate has brought you here once more. You cannot escape what was written in the stars. Soraya moved protectively in front of Toby. Please, great Njoku, she pleaded. He is still choosing. Give him time. Njoku's form shifted, swirling like mist above the water. Time, he scoffed. You have stolen enough time, Soraya. The balance must be restored. Lightning crackled across the sky, illuminating the fury in the sea god's gaze. The waves crashed against the shore, reaching higher and higher, as if trying to pull Toby in. The decision could no longer wait. Toby had to choose, now. Would he embrace his fate and become one with the ocean? Or would he defy the sea god once more and fight for his humanity? The storm raged around him, the ocean roaring, and Njoku's voice shaking the heavens. Choose, Boma. The storm raged around Toby as Njoku's massive form towered above him, his voice like a thunderclap splitting the sky. The ocean churned violently, waves rising higher, reaching for him with an undeniable force. Soraya clutched his arm, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Toby, you have to decide. The sea is claiming you. If you resist, Njoku will not be merciful. Toby's heart pounded against his ribs. Every part of him screamed to give in, to let the ocean take him, to allow himself to become Boma once more. The memories, the love, the pull of the sea, it all felt so right. But then he thought of his mother. Her warm laughter, her gentle hands braiding his hair when he was a child. The stories she used to tell him by the fire. The life he had built, the dreams he had chased. I don't want to forget. His grip tightened around the moonstone, its faint warmth pulsing against his palm. I won't do it, Toby said, his voice hoarse but firm. I won't just let the ocean take me. My life, my human life, still matters. And Joku's eyes flashed with fury. You dare defy me again, mortal. The waves surged forward, slamming into Toby with the force of a hurricane. He gasped as he was lifted off the ground, tossed like a leaf in the wind. His tail shimmered in the storm's light, but he fought against the pull, using his arms to push back against the waves. Soraya screamed his name, her voice lost in the storm. And Joku raised a hand, and the water wrapped around Toby's body like chains, dragging him toward the depths. You belong to the sea, Boma. Toby struggled, his lungs burning as water filled his mouth. The weight of the ocean was crushing him, pressing down on his chest, threatening to pull him into the abyss. No. With the last of his strength, Toby clutched the moonstone and slammed it against his chest. A shockwave of energy burst from the stone, sending ripples through the water. The chains of water shattered. And Joku let out a roar as the moonstone flared with a blinding light, cutting through the storm. The power of the stone wrapped around Toby like a shield, pushing back the waves, forcing the sea god to retreat. Soraya's eyes widened in shock. The moonstone, it's fighting for you. Toby gasped as he broke the surface, his chest heaving. He felt his tail begin to change, the scales shimmered, cracking apart, and suddenly his legs returned. The transformation was reversing. And Joku's roar shook the sky. You cannot run from fate, Boma. But it was too late. The moonstone's power surged, and Toby felt himself being thrown backward, away from the ocean, back onto the shore. The last thing he saw was Soraya's face, her eyes filled with sorrow, and something else. Hope. Then, everything went dark. Toby awoke to the sound of birds chirping and the feel of warm sand beneath him. His clothes were damp, and his legs, his human legs, ached like they had been asleep for days. He blinked up at the sky, dazed. The storm had passed. The ocean was calm again, its surface smooth and undisturbed. Had it all been a dream? Then he saw the moonstone still clenched in his palm. And the faint shimmer of scales still lining the edges of his skin. It hadn't been a dream. He was still connected to the ocean. The transformation hadn't completed, but it hadn't disappeared either. He was caught between two worlds. A shadow fell over him. Toby turned his head and gasped. Soraya was standing there, her long hair flowing in the morning breeze. But she was no longer fully a mermaid. Her legs were there, but the faint shimmer of scales still covered her skin. Tears welled in her eyes. You didn't choose the ocean, Toby, but you didn't reject me either. She held out her hand. Maybe, we can find another way. Toby stared at her, his mind spinning. Was there truly another path? A way to be part of both worlds? His heart pounded. If such a choice existed, it would change everything. And he wasn't sure if he was ready. But then again, maybe he had never truly been ready. Maybe fate was waiting for him to make his own choice. And this time, he wouldn't let anyone else decide for him. Toby sat up slowly, his body aching from the battle with the ocean. The sand clung to his damp skin, and his mind was spinning with everything that had just happened. He looked at Soraya, standing before him, her bare feet sinking into the soft earth. It was the first time he had ever seen her with legs. She stared at him with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. The wind tangled her long, dark hair, and for a moment, she looked just like any other woman. But the faint shimmer of scales on her skin betrayed the truth. She was still part of the ocean, just as he was. The moonstone pulsed weakly in his hand, its glow dimming. Whatever power had reversed his transformation, it had left both of them changed. Soraya knelt beside him, her fingers grazing his arm. "You are not fully human anymore," she murmured. "And I am no longer fully mermaid." Toby swallowed hard. His mind raced with questions. What does this mean? Am I still cursed? Can I ever go back to a normal life? Instead, he asked, "How do you feel?" Soraya tilted her head as though she had never considered the question before. "I feel unsteady," she admitted. "The earth beneath my feet does not move as the ocean does. It is strange. And yet, I am still drawn to the waves." She looked toward the sea, her expression conflicted. "This is not what I expected." Toby exhaled. "Me neither." The ocean was calm now, but the sky still held traces of the storm. Enjoku had been forced back, but Toby knew the sea god's anger wouldn't disappear so easily. The battle wasn't over. And yet, against all odds, he had survived. Soraya reached out and gently touched his face. "Do you regret it? Not choosing the ocean?" Toby hesitated. He could still feel the pull of the waves deep inside him. The memories of his past life as Prince Boma weren't gone, but neither was his connection to the present. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know I wasn't ready to leave everything behind." Soraya studied him for a moment before nodding. "Then we must find another way." Toby frowned. "Another way for what?" She stood up, brushing the sand off her skin. "A way to exist in both worlds. You and I are no longer what we were. The curse may still linger, but something changed when you used the moonstone. We have a chance to break the cycle." Toby slowly stood as well, wobbling slightly on his legs. He clenched the moonstone, feeling the faint hum of energy within it. A way to exist in both worlds. Could such a thing even be possible? His scholar's mind whirred with possibilities. If the curse had bound him to the sea once, could the moonstone rewrite that fate? One thing was certain, he couldn't return to his old life like nothing had happened. He had crossed a threshold, and there was no going back. His journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. Toby and Soraya left the cove behind, walking along the shoreline as the sun began to rise. The sky was a soft pink, and the ocean shimmered with gold where the light touched it. Each step felt surreal to Toby. Hours ago, he had nearly been lost to the sea forever. Now, he was walking beside the very mermaid who had once been the reason for his curse. And yet, he felt no hatred for her. Only curiosity. "What now?" Toby asked. "We can't stay here forever. And if Enjoku comes back?" "He will," Soraya interrupted. "The sea god does not take defiance lightly." Toby sighed. "Great. So we have an angry god after us, a curse that hasn't fully lifted, and we don't know what's happening to our bodies. We need answers." Soraya nodded. "There may be someone who can help." Toby frowned. "Who?" Soraya turned to him, her gaze unreadable. "An elder of the ocean. A being even the sea gods fear." Toby's breath hitched. He wasn't sure he liked the sound of that. "The ocean has its own secrets," she continued. "Just as humans have their wise elders, the sea has its own ancient ones. There is one who may know how to break this cycle for good." Toby hesitated. He still felt the weight of his human life pulling him back. His home, his mother, the world he had left behind. If he went deeper into this mystery, would he ever return? But then he looked at the moonstone, still glowing faintly in his palm. This was bigger than him now. And he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He met Soraya's gaze. "Then let's find them." Soraya smiled, a small, hopeful thing. And together, they stepped forward, into the unknown. The golden light of dawn stretched across the ocean, painting the waves in hues of orange and pink. Toby and Soraya walked along the shore, their footprints disappearing as the tide kissed the sand. Despite the beauty of the morning, Toby's mind was tangled with thoughts. He was still human, mostly, but his connection to the ocean had not disappeared. His legs, though solid now, tingled strangely as if the transformation lingered beneath his skin. Soraya walked beside him, her movements graceful yet hesitant. Though she had legs now, she still moved like she was expecting the water to carry her forward. "Where do we find this elder?" Toby asked, breaking the silence. Soraya glanced at the ocean, her expression distant. "The whispering depths." Toby frowned. "That doesn't sound very inviting." "It isn't," she admitted. "It is a place that even most merfolk fear to enter. The water there is dark, filled with ancient voices. The elder we seek has lived there for centuries, untouched by time." Toby exhaled. "Of course. Why would anything be easy?" Soraya smiled faintly. "Would you rather return home and pretend none of this happened?" Toby hesitated. He could turn back. He could try to reclaim his old life, pretend that he had never met Soraya, never heard of Prince Boma, never felt the pull of the sea in his veins. But deep down, he knew the truth. There is no turning back now. His fate was tied to the ocean, whether he liked it or not. And if he wanted to break this curse once and for all, he needed answers. Toby clenched the moonstone in his palm. "No," he said finally. "I need to see this through." Soraya nodded. "Then we must go before the sea god regains his strength." Toby glanced at the waves, his heart pounding. "And how exactly do we get to the whispering depths?" "Swim." Soraya smirked. "Something like that." Before he could ask what she meant, she lifted her hands and sang. The melody was soft at first, like the sound of waves brushing against the shore. Then it grew stronger, more commanding. The wind picked up around them, swirling in response to her voice. Then, from the depths of the ocean, something rose. Toby stumbled back as a massive creature emerged from the waves. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a cross between a sea serpent and a whale, with shimmering blue scales that reflected the light of dawn. Its golden eyes blinked as it lowered its head toward them. Soraya turned to Toby with a knowing smile. "Meet Azuka, the tide caller. He will take us to the depths." Toby stared at the massive creature, his heart racing. "You didn't mention we'd be riding a sea monster." Soraya only laughed. "Would you rather swim?" Toby groaned. "I hate this already." Still, as the tide caller lowered its body for them to climb on, Toby knew there was no turning back. He took a deep breath, grabbed Soraya's hand, and stepped forward. The moment they climbed onto Azuka's back, the creature let out a deep, rumbling sound and dived beneath the waves. Toby barely had time to take a breath before the ocean swallowed them whole. He expected to panic. He expected the water to crush him, to steal the air from his lungs. But instead, he felt weightless. The water didn't suffocate him, it wrapped around him like a second skin. Soraya sat in front of him, her hair flowing in the current. "The moonstone protects you," she said as if reading his thoughts. "As long as you hold it, the sea will not harm you." Toby glanced down at the stone, its glow brighter than ever. The ocean around them was alive, schools of fish darted past, their scales flashing like tiny stars. Strange, glowing creatures moved in the distance, their lights pulsing like lanterns. The deeper they went, the darker the water became, until the sunlight faded completely. Azuka swam swiftly, carrying them down, down, down into the unknown. Then, at last, Toby saw it. The whispering depths. A massive trench stretched below them, disappearing into absolute darkness. The water here felt different. Heavy. As though the ocean itself was watching. A soft murmur filled the water, surrounding them. The voices were too faint to understand, but Toby felt them press against his mind. Ancient voices. Forgotten voices. Soraya placed a hand on his arm. "Do not listen to them for too long," she warned. "The voices will try to pull you in." Toby swallowed hard. Great. More terrifying things. Azuka slowed as they approached the entrance of a massive underwater cave. Glowing blue stones lined the walls, casting an eerie light inside. And in the heart of the cave, something moved. A shape shifted in the darkness, massive, coiling, ancient. Then, two glowing eyes opened. A deep, rumbling voice echoed through the water. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" Toby froze. This was it. They had found the Elder. But whether it would help them or destroy them, that was yet to be seen. The deep, rumbling voice sent vibrations through the water, shaking the very walls of the cave. Toby clutched the moonstone tighter, its glow barely enough to pierce the heavy darkness. Soraya held her breath beside him. Even she, who had spent her life beneath the waves, looked uneasy. The massive, coiling form in the darkness shifted again, revealing more of its long, serpent-like body. Its glowing blue eyes fixed on them, ancient and knowing. "Who seeks the wisdom of the keeper of the depths?" Toby's throat felt dry, despite being surrounded by water. He cleared it, forcing himself to speak. "My name is Toby," he said, his voice steadier than he expected. "And this is Soraya. We have come to ask for your help." The being let out a low hum, as if considering his words. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it unfurled its long, elegant fins, revealing a body that shimmered like liquid obsidian. It looked like a serpent, but not entirely. There was an almost human-like intelligence in its gaze. Soraya bowed her head slightly. "Great Keeper, we seek answers about a curse that has lasted for centuries. We wish to know how to break it." The Keeper of the Depths chuckled, a sound like rolling thunder. "Many seek to break curses, yet few understand the price of doing so." Toby frowned. "You know about the curse of Prince Boma?" The Keeper's glowing eyes narrowed. "I know of all things that pass through the waters. The prince who loved the mermaid. The kiss that sealed his fate. The sea god's wrath. Its massive body coiled tighter, the currents shifting around it. And now, you stand before me, not as the prince you once were, but as something new. You are neither human nor mare. You are caught between two worlds." Toby's stomach tightened. "So, is there a way to stop this? To undo what's happening to me?" The Keeper studied him for a long moment before speaking. "You have already undone part of the curse. You resisted the sea's call, using the power of the moonstone. But your fate is not so easily rewritten." Toby's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" The Keeper's voice deepened. "The sea does not let go of what it claims. The curse is not merely about becoming mare, it is about belonging to the ocean. It is not a spell to be broken, but a bond that must be severed." Soraya's eyes widened. "And how can he sever it?" The Keeper shifted again, its long, dark body weaving through the water. "To truly free yourself, you must find the one who first bound you to the sea." Toby's breath caught. "You mean Njoku?" The Keeper's blue eyes flashed. "No." Silence pressed against them. Then, the Keeper spoke again, its voice quieter but heavier. "The one who bound you to the sea was not the god." Toby's mind reeled. "Then, who?" The Keeper's gaze slowly turned to Soraya. It was her. A heavy silence fell between them. Toby turned to Soraya, confusion twisting in his chest. "What? That doesn't make sense." Soraya looked just as shocked. No, I never cursed you." The Keeper hummed again, the sound vibrating through the water. "Not a curse of malice, but a curse of love. When you kissed him, Soraya, you sealed his fate. The bond was created between you, and through that bond, the ocean claimed him. Toby stared at her. You did this. Soraya shook her head furiously. I didn't know. I swear, Toby, I never meant for this to happen. The keeper's glowing eyes softened slightly. She did not know, because she was never meant to remember. Soraya's breath hitched. What? The sea god erased her memories long ago, the keeper said. To ensure the curse remained. But now, as the past awakens, so too must the truth. Toby's hands clenched into fists. This entire time, he thought Njoku had cursed him out of anger. But the truth was deeper. It was Soraya's love that had tied him to the sea. And if they wanted to break the curse, they would have to undo that bond. Toby's chest tightened. Would breaking the bond mean losing her forever? He looked at Soraya, her wide eyes filled with emotions too complicated to name. Was he willing to lose her to reclaim his human life? Or had his fate already been decided? Toby's heartbeat pounded in his ears, louder than the shifting currents around them. His gaze flickered between the keeper of the depths and Soraya, whose face was frozen in shock. Undo the bond, the keeper had said. But what did that truly mean? Soraya clenched her fists, her voice barely above a whisper. I never meant to trap you, Toby. I swear, I didn't know. Toby swallowed hard. I believe you. And he did. But that didn't change the fact that he was still changing, that the ocean still pulled at him. He turned back to the keeper. Tell me how to break the bond. The keeper's glowing eyes dimmed slightly, as if the question carried an impossible weight. Breaking the bond will not be easy. It was not forged by magic, but by the purest force of all, love. To sever it, you must either destroy that love completely, or surrender to it. Toby frowned. Destroy it. You must choose, Toby. Reject the ocean entirely, renounce Soraya, and the sea will release its claim on you. Soraya sucked in a sharp breath, but the keeper continued before she could speak. Or. The keeper's voice grew deeper, filled with an ancient sorrow. You can embrace the bond. Let go of the land, of your past, and accept what you have become. Toby's fingers tightened around the moonstone. He had come here searching for an answer, an escape. But this wasn't the answer he had expected. Either he abandoned Soraya and his connection to the ocean, or he surrendered to the transformation entirely. Soraya stepped forward. There has to be another way. Her voice was raw with desperation. Something that doesn't force Toby to choose between me and his life. The keeper's massive form shifted slightly, and for a moment, its ancient eyes seemed almost sad. Love and fate are intertwined, child. To defy one is to risk losing the other. Toby's stomach twisted. Could he really just walk away? Forget Soraya, force himself to stop caring about her, and pretend none of this ever happened? Even as he considered it, his heart ached. Soraya's voice broke through his thoughts. You don't have to decide now, Toby. We can find another way. We will. She turned to the keeper, her eyes fierce. There must be another way. The keeper studied her for a long moment before speaking. Perhaps there is. Both Toby and Soraya froze. The keeper's massive tail shifted in the water, disturbing the sand beneath them. There is an artifact, lost to the depths long ago. The heart of the tides. It was once wielded by the sea god's first priestess, before even Njoku claimed dominion over the waves. It is said that the heart has the power to rewrite fate itself. Toby's breath caught. Rewrite fate. If the heart is real, it may allow you to reshape the bond, to free yourself without losing what ties you to the ocean. But beware, for such power does not come without risk. Soraya's expression hardened. Where is it? The keeper's glowing eyes darkened. No one knows. The last to seek it never returned. Toby exhaled sharply. Of course they didn't. The keeper tilted its head slightly. Fate rarely offers easy paths, young one. But if you seek a third option, this may be your only chance. Silence fell between them. Then, slowly, Toby turned to Soraya. Do you believe it's real? Soraya hesitated, then nodded. If there's even the slightest chance that we can break this curse without losing each other, I have to believe it. Toby held her gaze. He thought about everything they had been through, the curse, the memories of Prince Boma, the way Soraya had sacrificed herself to protect him, even when she had no reason to. He thought about the ocean's pull, the scales creeping along his skin, and the fear of losing himself. But more than anything, he thought about the way Soraya looked at him now. Like she had already decided that she would fight for him. And maybe, just maybe, he would fight for her too. Toby turned back to the keeper. Where do we start? The keeper of the depths remained still, its glowing eyes watching them with unreadable intensity. If you seek the heart of the tides, you must prepare yourselves. The journey will not be easy. Toby swallowed hard, glancing at Soraya. We didn't expect it to be. The keeper let out a low hum, like the distant call of a whale. Legends say the heart was last seen in the ruins of Veleci, an ancient city swallowed by the ocean centuries ago. But beware, the city is not abandoned. Toby frowned. What do you mean? Veleci is a city lost to time, but its guardians remain. Creatures bound by magic, cursed to protect its secrets for eternity. A chill ran down Toby's spine. He had expected danger, but cursed guardians. That was a whole new level of trouble. Soraya squared her shoulders. Then we will face them together. The keeper's massive body shifted slightly. Very well. But you must leave soon. The longer Toby resists the sea's call, the more painful the transformation will become. Toby hesitated, glancing down at his arms. The scales had spread further, creeping toward his shoulders. Every day, it was getting harder to remember what it felt like to be fully human. If they didn't find the heart in time, would he even still be himself? The keeper's deep voice pulled him from his thoughts. Follow the currents east, past the sunken ridge. You will find the ruins beneath the maw of the deep. Toby nodded. Thank you. The keeper watched them for a moment longer, then its massive form began to fade into the darkness, as if it had never been there at all. The silence left in its wake was deafening. Toby turned to Soraya. So, a lost city, cursed guardians, and a magical artifact. No pressure, right? Soraya smiled faintly. We've already faced the wrath of a sea god. How much worse could it be? Toby let out a breathless laugh. Let's hope we don't find out. Soraya extended her hand. Come on. We have a long way to go. Toby hesitated for only a second before taking it. Then, together, they swam into the dark unknown. Toby and Soraya swam through the vast expanse of the ocean, following the deep currents that would lead them eastward. The water here was darker, the pressure heavier, as if the sea itself whispered warnings they couldn't quite hear. The maw of the deep. Even the name sent shivers through Toby's body. Soraya glanced at him, her expression serious. Stay close. The deeper we go, the less light there will be. And there are creatures down here that do not welcome intruders. Toby nodded, gripping the moonstone tighter. It still glowed faintly, but he could tell that its magic was weakening. They didn't have much time. For a while, they swam in silence, their only companions the distant flickers of bioluminescent fish and the eerie sway of deep-sea coral. Then, suddenly, a movement in the shadows. Toby froze. Something large was moving just beyond the edge of his vision, a dark shape gliding effortlessly through the water. Soraya tensed. We're not alone. The shape circled them slowly, staying just out of reach. Then, without warning, it attacked. A massive creature lunged from the darkness, its long, eel-like body twisting like a serpent. Its glowing yellow eyes locked onto Toby, and in an instant, its jaws snapped toward him. Toby barely dodged in time. Teeth the size of daggers missed him by inches, but the force of the creature's lunge sent him spiraling backward. Soraya darted forward, brandishing a sharp coral dagger she had taken from the wreckage of an old ship. She slashed at the creature's side, but its thick, armored scales barely registered the blow. Toby righted himself, heart pounding. What is that thing? Soraya gritted her teeth. A Velechi warden. The first of many. The warden turned toward her, its long, sinuous body curling in the water. With a roar that vibrated through the depths, it surged forward again, faster than before. Toby reacted on instinct. He grabbed a sharp shard of rock from the ocean floor and hurled it with all his strength. The rock struck the warden's side, right between its plated scales. The creature let out a piercing screech, its body convulsing. Soraya took the opportunity. She darted in low and fast, her dagger sinking deep into the creature's underbelly. With one final shudder, the warden collapsed, its massive form going still. Toby and Soraya hovered in the water, breathing hard. Toby wiped his forehead, only to realize his fingers brushed against scales. His transformation was still progressing. Soraya swam closer, worry in her eyes. Are you okay? Toby forced a shaky smile. Yeah. Just wondering how many more of those things are waiting for us. Soraya looked toward the dark abyss ahead. We're close now. The ruins of Velechi are just beyond this ridge. Toby exhaled slowly. They had won this battle. But the true dangers of the lost city were still waiting. Toby and Soraya swam past the remains of the fallen warden, their bodies tense as they approached the ruins of Velechi. The water grew colder, heavier, and the darkness around them deepened until the only source of light was the faint glow of their moonstone. Then, through the shadows, they saw it. The city of Velechi stretched before them, a vast underwater graveyard of stone and coral. Towering pillars rose from the seabed, their carvings worn away by time. What must have once been grand temples and palaces were now crumbling, overtaken by seaweed and the husks of forgotten creatures. But there was something wrong about this place. It was too quiet. Soraya gripped Toby's wrist. Do you feel that? Toby nodded, his throat dry. It's like the city is watching us. They swam deeper into the ruins, past what must have once been a marketplace, its stone stalls half buried in the sand. The statues of long-forgotten rulers lined the main path, their faces cracked and worn, but their eyes, still intact. Still staring. Then, a whisper. Toby jerked around. Did you hear that? Soraya's expression darkened. Yes. Another whisper. Then another. Then, 100 voices, all at once. Toby clutched his head as the voices rushed into his mind, a chaotic storm of sorrow and longing. They spoke in a language he didn't fully understand, but their emotions, pain, regret, despair, cut through him like a blade. Soraya reached for him, but before she could, the world shifted. Suddenly, Toby wasn't in the ruins anymore. He was standing in the middle of a grand city, Velechi, before it fell. The streets bustled with merfolk in flowing robes, their scales shimmering under the glow of strange, floating lights. The air was filled with the sound of laughter, music, and the hum of powerful magic. And then, a scream. The vision changed. The sky above the city darkened, and the ocean shook with fury. Shadows rose from the depths, and the merfolk, the same ones who had been celebrating just moments ago, were now running in terror. Toby watched in horror as a massive tidal wave crashed over the city. Buildings crumbled. Statues shattered. The laughter turned to shrieks of despair. And then, silence. The city of Velechi was gone. The vision faded. Toby gasped, his body jerking as he returned to the present. Soraya was gripping his arms, her eyes wide with fear. "Toby. What happened?" Toby staggered back, his breath coming in short gasps. "I saw it," he whispered. "I saw how the city fell." Soraya swallowed. "How?" Toby clenched his fists. The heart of the tides was here. And someone, destroyed everything to keep it hidden. Soraya's expression hardened. "Then we have to find it before whoever did this stops us too." Toby nodded. But as they turned to continue deeper into the ruins, he couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. That the spirits of Vallecci were still watching. And that the truth of its destruction was far more terrifying than he could imagine. Toby's skin still tingled from the vision as he and Soraya drifted further into the ruins of Vallecci. The whispers had faded, but the eerie silence remained, pressing around them like the weight of the deep ocean itself. Soraya reached for his hand, her grip firm. "Are you sure you're okay?" Toby exhaled slowly. "Yeah. That wasn't just a vision. It felt real." She nodded solemnly. "The ocean doesn't forget, Toby. Especially a city like this, lost but not truly gone." As they swam past the collapsed remains of a temple, Toby caught a glimpse of something, a faint shimmer, like moonlight against glass, hidden among the ruins. "Wait," he murmured. "Do you see that?" Soraya turned just as the shimmer moved. Then, a figure emerged from the darkness. It was neither fully solid nor fully transparent, a spectral merfolk, its body wreathed in the swirling energy of the deep. Glowing blue eyes locked onto Toby, and when it spoke, its voice was layered, as if it came from both the past and the present. "You must not go further." Toby's breath caught in his throat. Who are you?" The spirit drifted closer. "I was once Kaliru, guardian of Vallecci. I failed my people, and now I remain here, bound to this place, to ensure our mistake is never repeated." Soraya stepped forward cautiously. "We don't mean any harm. We're looking for the heart of the tides." Kaliru's form flickered, and when it spoke again, there was a deep sorrow in its voice. "Then you are already lost." Toby clenched his fists. "What does that mean?" The spirit's eyes darkened. The heart was the pride of Vallecci, a gift from the gods of the sea. But it was never meant to be controlled. The city's rulers grew greedy, believing they could wield its power to shape fate itself. And so, the ocean struck back. Toby swallowed hard. "The tidal wave. The destruction I saw in my vision." Kaliru nodded. "It was no accident. It was the will of the ocean." Soraya's expression hardened. "Then why was the heart not destroyed?" The guardian hesitated. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, it said, "Because someone still protects it." A chill ran through Toby. "Who?" Kaliru turned, pointing toward the deepest part of the ruins, where the remains of the royal palace stood, half buried in coral. "The last ruler of Vallecci, Queen Zuri. When the city fell, she refused to surrender the heart. And so, she was cursed to remain, bound to its power, neither dead nor alive." Soraya and Toby exchanged uneasy glances. Kaliru's form flickered again. "If you seek the heart, you will have to face her." Toby inhaled sharply. "And if we defeat her?" The guardian's glowing eyes locked onto his. "Then the sea will decide whether you are worthy." A heavy silence filled the water between them. Finally, Kaliru's form began to fade. But before it disappeared completely, it spoke one last time. "Turn back now. Or be swallowed by fate itself." Then, it was gone. Toby and Soraya were left alone in the ruins once more. Soraya turned to him, her expression unreadable. "What do we do?" Toby clenched his jaw. "We keep going." Soraya nodded, her grip tightening around her dagger. "Then we face the queen." And with that, They swam toward the shattered remains of the palace, toward whatever haunted the heart of the tides. The ruins of Velechi's royal palace loomed before them like the bones of a long-dead leviathan. The grand stone pillars, once standing proud, were now broken and covered in thick coral. Fragments of the royal throne room lay scattered across the seabed, and eerie shafts of light filtered through the wreckage. As Toby and Soraya swam closer, a strange hum filled the water, a deep vibration that pulsed through their bodies, like the ocean itself was breathing. Soraya halted. "Do you hear that?" Toby swallowed hard. "Yeah. It's coming from inside." They pressed forward, weaving through the ruins until they reached what remained of the palace's central chamber. The once great hall was half buried, its massive doors cracked open just wide enough for them to squeeze through. Inside, the pulsing hum grew louder. And at the very center of the ruined chamber, surrounded by twisting currents of glowing water, was the heart of the tides. It was unlike anything Toby had ever seen, a shimmering orb, encased in coral and pulsing with an ethereal blue light. It radiated power, sending ripples through the water with each slow pulse. Soraya's breath hitched. "It's real." But before they could move closer, the water around them froze. Not literally, but everything became still, as if the ocean itself had been silenced. And then, from the shadows behind the heart, something moved. A figure drifted forward, her body half hidden by the shifting glow of the artifact. Her hair flowed like seaweed, her robes tattered, and her eyes, hollow. Soraya stiffened. "That's her. Queen Zuri." Toby felt his stomach tighten. The last ruler of Velechi, the one who had refused to surrender the heart, even as her city crumbled. She was neither living nor dead. Nzuri's voice echoed through the water, soft but laced with something ancient and unyielding. "You should not be here." Toby tried to keep his voice steady. "We need the heart." Nzuri's hollow gaze snapped to him. "You seek to take what the gods have forsaken." Soraya floated protectively beside Toby. "Velechi is gone. The heart shouldn't be buried with it." Nzuri tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "You believe you can wield its power? That you are different from the fools who came before?" Toby felt something deep inside him shift. He wasn't just a stranger stumbling into this story. He was connected to it. The curse. The transformation. The whispers of the past. This wasn't just any relic. It was his fate. Nzuri extended a hand. The water around them thickened, heavy with unseen force. "Prove yourselves." And with that, the queen attacked. The water trembled as Queen Nzuri raised her hand, and the currents surged to life around her. Without warning, a tidal force slammed into Toby and Soraya. Toby was thrown backward, spiraling through the water. He struggled to regain control, but the currents twisted around him like invisible hands, dragging him deeper into the ruins. Soraya darted forward, her dagger gleaming as she fought against the pull of the queen's power. "Toby." Toby gritted his teeth. "I'm fine." But even as he said it, his skin tingled, not just from the magic in the water, but from something inside him. Nzuri's hollow gaze burned into him. "You do not remember." Toby stiffened. Then, a vision struck him. Not like before. This time, it was clearer. A throne room. Gold and sapphire. A prince kneeling before a woman with eyes as deep as the sea. Soraya. Toby gasped as the memory crashed over him. Nzuri's voice surrounded him, powerful and unrelenting. "You were here before, long ago. And you failed." Toby's breath caught. His past life. Prince Boma. The cursed love he had forgotten. Soraya turned to him, eyes wide. "Toby, what is she talking about?" Toby clenched his fists. The scales on his arms shimmered, and for the first time, he felt them respond to the magic in the water. Nzuri lifted her hands. The heart of the tides pulsed. The ruins trembled. The test had begun. Prove your worth, lost prince. Toby had no choice but to fight. The ruins of the palace shuddered, and the water around them swirled in a storm of power. Queen Zuri hovered above the shattered throne, her hollow gaze locked onto Toby. The heart of the tides pulsed beside her, sending waves of magic rippling through the water. Toby's breath hitched as he looked down at his arms, his skin glowed faintly, the shimmering scales more pronounced than ever before. The more he stared, the more he felt something stir inside him. Something old. Something forgotten. Nzuri's voice echoed through the water. The past never died, only you forgot it. And then, she attacked. A torrent of water shot toward him like a spear. Toby barely had time to react before Soraya darted in front of him, slicing through the wave with her dagger. "Toby, focus," she shouted. "She's trying to shake you." Toby clenched his fists, forcing himself to push through the fog in his mind. He had to remember. Another strike. This time, the water itself twisted into serpent-like tendrils, surging toward them with deadly precision. Soraya swerved, barely dodging one, but another coiled around Toby's leg and yanked him downward. Nzuri's hollow voice whispered, "You drowned once before. Will you drown again?" And just like that, the past came flooding back. A memory from long ago. Prince Boma stood before the heart of the tides, his heart heavy with love and sorrow. Soraya hovered before him, her luminous form wavering like a mirage. "We could leave, Boma. We could run before they come." But he shook his head. "I cannot. The ocean is calling me." A roar sounded from the palace corridors. The king's guards were coming. Soraya grabbed his hands, desperation in her eyes. "Then take the heart, Boma. With its power, we can change our fate." Boma hesitated. The heart of the tides pulsed before him, a living force of magic and destiny. If he took it, if he embraced its power. But before he could decide, the doors burst open. The king's warriors stormed in, their weapons glinting. And in that moment of hesitation, Boma was struck down. He felt himself falling, the water around him darkening, pulling him toward the depths. His last sight before everything faded was Soraya's anguished face, reaching for him as the ocean swallowed him whole. Back to the present. Toby's eyes snapped open. The past wasn't just a story. It was his life. He wasn't just some historian who stumbled into an old legend. He was Prince Boma, reborn. And now, he would not fall again. Nzuri struck again, but this time, when the water surged toward him, Toby did not move. Instead, he raised his hand. A deep hum filled the ocean. The very currents that had attacked him stopped mid-motion, twisting and shifting until they were under his command. Nzuri's hollow eyes widened slightly. "Ah, you awaken at last." Toby could feel it now. The power of the ocean, the pull of something ancient inside him. The heart of the tides wasn't just a relic. It was connected to him. Soraya stared at him in awe. "Toby, what's happening?" He turned to her, his voice steadier than it had ever been. "I remember everything." Nzuri lowered her hand, and the water settled. "Then your true test begins." And with that, the ruins began to shift, revealing a hidden pathway deeper into the palace. The trial was not over. It had only just begun. The ruins trembled as the hidden pathway unfolded before them, its coral-covered stones shifting to reveal a corridor bathed in a soft blue glow. The heart of the tides pulsed rhythmically, as if guiding them forward. Queen Nzuri floated back, her hollow gaze never leaving Toby. "You have remembered, but memory alone is not enough. You must prove yourself." Toby's heart pounded. He could still feel the power surging through his veins, the energy of the ocean responding to his very thoughts. This was no ordinary magic, it was something woven into his very being. Soraya, still gripping her dagger, turned to him. If you remember everything, then tell me, Boma. Her voice softened as she spoke his old name. Why were you cursed? Toby's breath caught. That was the one thing still missing. He could see flashes of his past, his love for Soraya, the attack in the throne room, the fall into darkness, but the moment of the curse itself. It was hidden. Nzuri slowly raised her arm, and the passageway pulsed with an ancient energy. The answer you seek lies ahead. Step forward, if you dare. Toby and Soraya exchanged a glance. Then, they swam into the corridor. The Hall of Reflections. The deeper they went, the colder the water became. It wasn't just a temperature drop, it was as if they were moving between time itself. The corridor led to a vast chamber of mirrors. No, not mirrors. Water. Great pillars of shimmering liquid stretched from floor to ceiling, their surfaces rippling like glass. And within each one, visions flickered. Toby gasped as he saw himself, or rather, Prince Boma, inside one of the reflections. Soraya turned to a different pillar, her eyes widening as she watched her past self reaching out for Boma. Nzuri's voice echoed. Here, the ocean remembers all. Toby stepped forward, staring into the water. The moment his hand touched the surface, he was pulled inside. The forgotten truth. Toby stood in the throne room once again. The heart of the tides shimmered on its pedestal, and before him, his father, the king of Zuma, glared down at him. You dare defy me, Boma? The king's voice was thunderous, his golden robes flowing like storm clouds. You would betray your kingdom for the love of a sea creature. Toby's past self, Prince Boma, stood tall, unshaken. Soraya is not a creature. She is my heart. The king's eyes burned with rage. Foolish boy. He turned to the royal priests, who stood in a circle around the heart of the tides, their hands raised in incantation. Then if your heart belongs to the sea, you shall become one with it. Boma's eyes widened. No. The priests began to chant. The heart of the tides pulsed. Boma screamed as an unseen force gripped his body, twisting his very essence. Scales bloomed along his arms, his legs fused together, and his breath became water. The king watched, his face like stone. You will never set foot on land again, he declared. This is my judgment. Boma collapsed, gasping. He was changing, but worse than that, Soraya was being dragged away. No, he reached for her, but his body was weak, foreign, unfamiliar. Soraya fought against the guards. You can't do this, she cried. We were meant to be together. But the guards pulled her away, and as Boma's vision blurred, he heard her final, desperate words. No matter how long it takes, I will find you again. Back to the present. Toby staggered backward, gasping. The water rushed around him, and suddenly he was back in the Hall of Reflections. His hands were shaking. His scales shimmered violently. Soraya hovered nearby, watching him with wide eyes. Toby. He looked up at her, the weight of centuries crashing down on him. I was cursed, he whispered. By my own father. Soraya's breath hitched. That means. Toby clenched his fists, his body glowing with an unearthly energy. This curse was never the ocean's will. His voice trembled with realization. It was the will of men. Nzuri, watching from the entrance of the chamber, nodded solemnly. And now, you must decide, will you break the curse, or will you embrace it? The ruins around them trembled once more. The final trial had begun. The ruins quaked, sending a ripple of power through the water. Toby's heart pounded as he processed the truth. The curse that had followed him across lifetimes had not been the ocean's doing. It was his father's punishment. Soraya's gaze locked onto his, filled with emotion, pain, and hope. Toby, if this wasn't the ocean's will, then that means. Nzuri's voice cut through the water, calm yet unwavering. It means your fate was never truly sealed. It can still be changed. The chamber of reflection shimmered, and suddenly, the heart of the tides materialized before them. It floated, spinning slowly, its deep blue glow illuminating the ruins. Toby's breath caught. It called to him. Nzuri raised her hand, and the water swirled. The final trial awaits. You must make your choice. A pathway of light extended toward the heart of the tides. Toby and Soraya drifted toward it, their hands nearly touching. Nzuri continued, her voice laced with something almost reverent. To break the curse, you must reclaim what was taken from you. But to do so, you must choose, return to the land as a man, or embrace the ocean as a king. Toby's chest tightened. He thought back to his past self, Prince Boma, who had fought for love, only to be torn away. He had suffered lifetimes of forgetting, of wandering, of never truly belonging. And now, he stood on the edge of a new destiny. Soraya's voice was soft. Toby, what do you want? The two paths. The water shimmered, and before them, two visions unfolded. In one, Toby walked upon the land once more. The scales faded, the ocean released him, and he returned to the world above. He saw himself in a village, surrounded by people, living a life that had once been stolen from him. But Soraya was not there. She remained in the water, watching from the depths. A world apart. In the second vision, Toby's transformation continued. His human memories merged with his merfolk instincts, and he embraced his full power. The heart of the tides bent to his will, and he stood, not as a cursed prince, but as a rightful ruler of the ocean. Soraya was beside him. Together, they reigned beneath the waves, uniting the land and sea at last. Toby swallowed hard. One choice would return him to the life he lost. The other would make him something new entirely. Soraya watched him closely. No matter what you choose, I will stay with you. Nzuri's gaze darkened. Choose, child of the tides. The heart pulsed, the ruins trembled, and the ocean held its breath. Toby stepped forward. The ocean whispered around him, waiting. The heart of the tides pulsed, its magic stretching toward Toby like an unseen current, urging him to choose. Toby's fingers trembled as he looked between the two visions. The land, his humanity. The life that was stolen from him. The sea, his destiny. The life he could create anew. His heart ached as he turned to Soraya. What if I choose wrong? Soraya reached for his hand, her touch gentle yet firm. Your heart already knows the answer, Toby. It always has. Nzuri hovered above them, watching. A choice made in fear leads only to regret. Choose with purpose, or you will be forever lost between two worlds. Toby closed his eyes. His entire life, both of them, had been spent in uncertainty. Wandering, searching for answers, never feeling whole. He had been a historian, piecing together lost stories, never realizing his own was still unfolding. And now, he stood at the threshold of something greater. Slowly, he opened his eyes, his decision made. He turned toward the heart of the tides. And reached for it. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, the world exploded with light. The ascension. A rush of power surged through Toby's body, wrapping around him like an unseen force. His skin glowed, his scales shimmered, and a deep, ancient energy awakened within him. The ruins shook, the ocean trembled, and the heart of the tides merged with his soul. Toby gasped, his vision filled with glimpses of the past and future. He saw Zuma's golden shores, the kingdom that once feared the ocean, now standing at the edge of change. He saw merfolk emerging from the depths, no longer hidden in shadows, but standing as equals with the world above. He saw himself, no longer a cursed prince, no longer a lost historian. But something new. Something whole. Nzuri's voice, once distant, now rang with reverence. You have chosen the path of the tides. Soraya's eyes widened as she looked at him. Toby, you're... Before she could finish, the ruins began to rise. The ocean's magic, dormant for centuries, had finally awakened. And Toby was its chosen king. The ocean roared as the ruins rose around them, shaking off centuries of silence. A rush of light spiraled around Toby, wrapping him in a warm yet powerful embrace. The transformation was complete. He was no longer just Toby, the historian, nor Boma, the cursed prince. He was something greater. The heart of the tides had chosen him. Soraya watched in awe, her silver hair floating around her like threads of moonlight. Toby, she whispered, reaching toward him. His scales shimmered with the glow of the ancient power. The deep blue markings on his arms pulsed in sync with the rhythm of the sea. He could feel the water as though it were part of him, not just surrounding him, but listening. Waiting. Nzuri's expression was unreadable, but a small nod of approval passed through her gaze. You have accepted the path. Now, you must face what comes next. Toby turned to her, his mind clearer than ever before. What comes next? Nzuri lifted her hand, and suddenly, the ocean shifted. The ruins vanished into darkness, and in their place, a new vision unfolded. The awakening of the deep. Toby found himself floating in an endless sea. The water stretched in every direction, deeper than any trench, vaster than any kingdom. The moonlight above barely touched the surface, and below, something stirred. A voice, low and ancient, rumbled from the depths. At last, you have returned. Toby's breath hitched. He felt a pull, something older than the curse, something older than the kingdoms above and below. Soraya appeared beside him, her fingers tightening around his arm. Do you feel that? Toby nodded. I do. Nzuri's voice echoed from the currents. The ocean does not give its power freely. There is a price for everything. The darkness below twisted, and two enormous golden eyes opened beneath them. Toby's chest tightened. This was no ordinary sea creature. This was something ancient, forgotten, waiting. A guardian of the ocean. And now, it was awake. The trial of the abyss. The golden eyes fixed on Toby, their gaze deep and knowing. The curse was only the beginning, the voice rumbled. Now, you must prove yourself. The ocean tightened around them. The water grew heavy, pressing against Toby's chest. He realized what was happening. The ocean was testing him. Soraya grabbed his arm. Toby, don't let it consume you. Toby clenched his fists, feeling the heart of the tides thrumming within him. He could hear the waves, feel the pull of the currents. This was his domain now. His fear melted away. He met the guardian's gaze and spoke with a voice that was no longer just his own. I do not fear the ocean, he declared. I am part of it. The golden eyes narrowed. For a moment, the water stilled. Then, the abyss surged forward. The abyss trembled, sending dark ripples through the water. The golden eyes beneath Toby and Soraya blazed brighter, piercing through the inky void. The guardian's voice rumbled through the depths, each word a wave of power pressing against Toby's very soul. You claim to be part of the ocean, but do you understand what that means? Toby's heart pounded as the currents around him grew stronger, pulling him downward. He fought to stay in place, his newfound power stirring within him, but the ocean was testing him, dragging him into its deepest, most hidden places. Soraya reached for him. Toby. A whirlpool formed beneath them, swirling like a great, hungry mouth. Soraya was pushed back by the force of the current, and before Toby could grab her hand, the ocean swallowed him whole. The depths of memory. Darkness. Silence. Toby fell and fell, deeper than he had ever gone before. The water around him was no longer warm and familiar, it was cold, endless, ancient. He had the strange feeling that he was not just sinking through the ocean. He was sinking through time. Then, the whispers began. They curled around him like tendrils, slipping into his mind, wrapping around his memories. You do not belong here. You are neither land nor sea. You are a mistake. Toby gritted his teeth. He could feel the whispers clawing at his identity, trying to unravel him, trying to make him forget who he was. No. His fists clenched. His scales glowed, and suddenly, his memories fought back. He saw himself as Prince Boma, standing at the edge of the Zuma kingdom, staring at the ocean with longing. He saw himself as Toby, studying ancient texts, searching for lost stories, never knowing he was one of them. He saw Soraya, waiting for him. Always waiting. And with a burst of will, he reached for that truth and held onto it. I am not a mistake. He roared, his voice shaking the ocean around him. Light exploded from his body, driving back the darkness. The whispers screamed and shattered, vanishing into the void. And then, the golden eyes reappeared, closer this time. A massive shape rose from the abyss, revealing itself at last. The guardian of the tides. The creature was enormous, stretching beyond the edges of Toby's vision. Its golden eyes gleamed in its massive, sleek head, and its body shimmered like the scales of 1,000 forgotten sea kings. It was neither fish nor serpent, neither man nor beast. It was the spirit of the ocean itself. The guardian lowered its gaze, studying Toby with something different this time. Not judgment, but recognition. You are stronger than the last time. Toby breathed heavily, the glow of the heart of the tides pulsing in his chest. I will not be broken. The guardian let out a deep, rumbling sound, not quite a laugh, but close. Then you are ready for the true trial. The abyss shifted, and suddenly, the darkness peeled away, revealing something Toby never expected to see. A city. A great, forgotten city, buried beneath the waves for centuries. And at its center, a throne. Toby's breath caught in his throat as he gazed upon the city before him. The ocean had hidden it well, massive stone structures covered in coral, spiraling towers that stretched into the darkness, and golden archways carved with symbols older than any he had seen before. At the very center, resting on a raised platform of smooth black stone, was a throne. Not just any throne, his throne. The realization struck him like a wave. This city had once belonged to the rulers of the sea. It had once been his home. The golden-eyed guardian circled above, its voice like rolling thunder. This was the kingdom of the tide-born. The rulers of the deep. The first ones to bridge the gap between land and sea. Toby's fingers trembled as he reached out, touching the worn carvings on a nearby pillar. The moment his hand met the stone, memories surged through him. Visions of the past. Toby saw his past self, Prince Boma, not as a cursed outcast, but as a ruler standing proudly on the throne. The merfolk of old bowed before him, their shimmering tails reflecting the light of the bioluminescent crystals embedded in the ocean floor. At his side stood Soraya, her eyes filled with love and power, the crown of the sea resting upon her silver hair. They had ruled together. They had been loved. But then, shadows crept into the vision. A storm. A betrayal. A war between the land and sea. Toby gasped as he saw the Zuma Kingdom's warriors standing on the cliffs above the ocean, holding staffs crackling with forbidden magic. He saw his own father, the human king who had cursed him. You have betrayed your kind, the old king had spat at Boma. You were meant to rule the land, not fall for the tricks of the ocean. Boma had stood his ground, Soraya by his side. Love is not a trick. I was never meant to belong to just one world. The king's eyes had darkened, and with a wave of his staff, the curse had been cast. The throne had been abandoned, the city forgotten, and Boma, reborn, lifetime after lifetime, never remembering who he was. Until now. The throne calls. Toby staggered back, the vision fading. The ocean seemed to hush, as if waiting for him to speak. Soraya swam toward him, concern in her eyes. What did you see? Toby swallowed hard. This was my kingdom. His voice trembled. I was its king, and I lost everything. Soraya gently cupped his face, her touch grounding him. But now, you remember. And you have the chance to reclaim what was stolen. The Golden Guardian lowered its massive head, its golden eyes gleaming with approval. The throne has waited for you, Tide-born king. But before you can claim it, you must prove yourself worthy. The water around them shuddered, and suddenly, the ruins began to tremble. The ocean was not done testing him. The ocean rumbled. The ruins of the lost city trembled as if they, too, were awakening from a centuries-long slumber. Toby could feel it, the ancient magic stirring beneath the seabed, the weight of his past pressing down on him like the deep tides. The Guardian's golden eyes watched him, waiting. You have seen your past. Now, you must prove that you are worthy of your future. Toby swallowed, his hands clenching into fists. He had come so far. He had uncovered the truth of his past life, remembered the love he and Soraya had shared, and reclaimed his power. But the throne, the very seat of his destiny, still remained untouched. The golden-eyed guardian rose higher, its massive form casting a shadow over the ruins. Its voice rumbled through the depths. The final trial is not a battle of strength. It is a battle of the soul. Toby's chest tightened. A battle of the soul. He had fought against currents, outswum creatures of the abyss, and withstood the weight of ancient magic, but this was different. Step forward, Tide-born king. Toby hesitated for only a second before moving toward the throne of the deep. The closer he got, the more he felt a strange energy pulsing in the water, like a heartbeat buried beneath the stone. He turned to Soraya, who gave him a small, encouraging nod. I know you can do this, she whispered. He took a deep breath and placed his hand on the throne. The ocean erupted. The reflection of the deep. Darkness swallowed him. Toby was no longer in the ruins. No longer in the ocean. He stood in a void of endless water, the world stretching infinitely in all directions. The only thing in front of him was himself. But not as he was now. No. Prince Boma. The reflection of his past self stood tall, dressed in royal garments of woven sea silk, his golden crown glinting under unseen light. His scales shimmered like moonlit waves, and his eyes burned with power. But there was anger in them. You do not deserve to stand here. Toby flinched. What? The reflection stepped forward, his voice laced with bitterness. You abandoned everything. You let them take our kingdom. You let them curse us. And for centuries, you did nothing but live life after life as a clueless human. Toby's fists clenched. I didn't know. I didn't remember. And that is the problem. Suddenly, the reflection rushed forward. Toby barely had time to react before a wave of force slammed into him, knocking him back. Pain shot through his body as he tumbled, but he forced himself to regain control, kicking through the water to steady himself. He looked up just in time to see his past self summoning a great trident of ocean light. If you are to reclaim the throne, you must prove you are strong enough to bear the weight of it. The reflection charged. And Toby had no choice but to fight. Battle of the soul. Toby dodged, narrowly avoiding the strike of the glowing trident. His past self was faster, stronger, and completely unrelenting. Each strike sent waves crashing through the void, shaking the very water around them. Toby raised his hands, summoning the power of the heart of the tides, but before he could fully summon his own weapon, Boma struck. The trident's tip grazed his arm, sending a shock of energy through his body. He cried out in pain, his vision flickering. Pathetic. His past self circled him like a predator. How can you be king if you still hesitate? Toby gritted his teeth. He wasn't the same as before. He wasn't just some lost soul, wandering without answers. He had fought to get here. He had earned this. The moment Boma charged again, Toby didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped forward. The trident came toward him, but before it could strike, Toby caught it. Bare-handed. Power exploded from the impact, sending ripples through the ocean around them. Boma's eyes widened. What? Toby's gaze hardened. You are not my enemy. The reflection struggled against him, trying to wrench the weapon away, but Toby didn't let go. This throne is mine to reclaim, not because I was born to it, Toby's voice rang through the void, steady and unwavering. But because I choose it. With a final push, Toby shattered the trident. Light exploded between them, and Boma let out a strangled gasp before he disappeared. The void collapsed. The true king rises. Toby gasped as his eyes snapped open. He was back in the ruins, standing before the throne of the tides. Soraya was gripping his arms, shaking him. Toby. Are you okay? He blinked, his mind racing, his body still pulsing with the energy of the trial. Then he looked down. In his hands was a new trident. Not the one his past self had wielded, but something new, something forged from his own strength, his own choices. The shaft was made of glowing silver coral, the prongs shaped like swirling waves. It pulsed with a power that was truly his. The golden-eyed guardian let out a deep, approving hum. You have faced yourself, and won. The ocean stilled, and for the first time, Toby felt it truly accept him. Soraya smiled through the tears in her eyes. You did it. Toby turned to the throne. Slowly, with steady steps, he moved forward and sat upon it. The moment he did, the city glowed to life. The ruins shook, light spreading through the ancient carvings like veins of power, as if the ocean itself was rejoicing. The kingdom was no longer lost. It had a ruler once more. Toby, the king of the tides, had returned. The glow of the city spread, illuminating the once-forgotten ruins with shimmering light. The deep-sea currents whispered through the towering coral-covered structures, carrying the echoes of a kingdom that had finally awakened after centuries of slumber. Toby sat on the throne of the tides, his new trident resting across his lap. He could feel the pulse of the ocean beneath him, as if the water itself recognized his rule. Power thrummed through his veins, not as something borrowed, but as something that had always been a part of him. The golden-eyed guardian lowered its massive head, studying him with something close to approval. You have reclaimed what was lost, tide-born king. But the ocean does not exist without its storms. Soraya, standing beside the throne, tensed at those words. What do you mean? The guardian's voice rolled through the waters, ancient and knowing. The land will not sit still. The humans who once cursed this throne will sense its return. They will come. Toby's grip on his trident tightened. The Zuma kingdom. The very place where his human past had begun. The home of his ancestors. Would they see him as a ruler? Or as a threat? The land remembers. Far above the waves, in the royal palace of Zuma, a restless wind howled through the towering stone halls. Inside the throne room, King Alyamide, the ruler of the human kingdom, felt a shiver crawl up his spine. The great mural of the ocean, painted on the palace wall, suddenly cracked down the middle. The royal advisors gasped. The king's expression darkened. Something had changed in the ocean. Something had awakened. An elder advisor stepped forward, his voice hushed with fear. Your Majesty, the curse has broken. King Alyamide's eyes narrowed. Summon the high priests. We must prepare. The Zuma kingdom had not forgotten the past. And they would not allow the ocean to rise again. A kingdom divided. Back beneath the waves, Toby sat deep in thought, the glow of the ocean kingdom casting soft light around him. He had won the throne. But the battle was far from over. Soraya reached out, placing a gentle hand on his arm. We don't have to face this alone. Toby looked at her, the love in her eyes a reminder of everything he had fought for. Everything they had lost and regained. He nodded. No, we don't. He turned to the golden-eyed guardian. The Zuma kingdom will come for us. We need to be ready. The guardian rumbled in agreement. Then let the ocean prepare for war. And as the waters stirred, as old powers awoke, and as the tides began to shift once more, the battle for the ocean was only just beginning. The ocean pulsed with energy. The ancient kingdom of the tides had awakened, and the sea creatures that had once hidden in the depths now sensed the shift. Schools of fish swam in mesmerizing patterns, great whales let out long, echoing songs, and distant shadows moved across the ocean floor, drawn to the new king who had reclaimed his throne. Toby sat silently on the throne of the tides, his gaze fixed on the swirling waters beyond the ruins. He could feel the weight of his responsibility settling over him like a cloak of heavy coral. The Zuma kingdom would not ignore what had happened. And he had no doubt that even now, on land, preparations for war had already begun. Soraya moved beside him, her silver hair drifting like silk in the water. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. Toby exhaled. That history is repeating itself. He glanced down at his hands, now webbed and covered in shimmering scales. I spent my whole life as a human, never realizing that I was living under a curse. Now that I've broken free, the humans will see me as a threat. Soraya frowned. Not all of them. Toby gave her a look. The ones who matter will. The golden-eyed guardian, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. The land and sea were never meant to be enemies. It was greed and fear that created the war between them. The great being's voice echoed through the ruins like a tidal wave rolling over the shore. Toby turned toward the guardian. And what am I supposed to do? Wait for them to attack. The guardian's golden eyes gleamed. A king does not wait. A king prepares. The ocean gathers its forces. Word spread through the ocean like the rush of a rising tide. The tide-born king had returned. From the deepest trenches to the sunlit reefs, the creatures of the sea stirred. The merfolk, once scattered and leaderless, began to swim toward the kingdom. Warriors with spears of sharpened coral, mystics who could summon storms, and elder sea lords who had lived for centuries all gathered beneath the glowing ruins. Toby stood before them, the weight of their trust pressing against his chest. A warrior with dark green scales and a chest covered in battle scars stepped forward. His voice was deep and rough. "You are the heir of the throne. The blood of the first tide kings runs through you. But tell me, landborn, are you truly ready to lead us?" A murmur ran through the gathered merfolk. They had lived in the shadows of history for too long. Some feared war. Others craved vengeance. Toby lifted his newly forged trident, feeling its power pulse through his fingers. "I didn't ask for this war," he said, his voice carrying through the water. "But I won't let the land take what belongs to the sea. Not again." The warrior studied him for a long moment, then knelt. One by one, the others followed. Toby swallowed, his grip tightening on his trident. This was real. This was happening. The ocean was preparing for war. On the shores of the Zuma kingdom. Far above the waves, in the Zuma kingdom, warriors lined the cliffs, watching the ocean with wary eyes. The royal priests had cast their bones and read the stars. The signs were clear. The sea was awakening. King Alyamide stood at the edge of his throne room, staring at the horizon. He had heard the old stories, of the prince who had once betrayed the land for love, of the mermaid who had lured him away, and of the curse that had been placed upon him to ensure he never returned. Now, the prince had returned as something else. A messenger entered the room and bowed. "Your Majesty, our scouts have seen strange movements beneath the waves. The sea creatures are gathering." The king's expression darkened. "It's just as the ancestors warned," an elder priest muttered. The Tideborn have a ruler once more. If we do not act now, we will lose the land to the sea. King Alumide turned to his warlords. Prepare the warriors. Summon the spirit callers. If the ocean wants war. His grip tightened on his royal staff. We will bring the storm to them first. A choice must be made. Back beneath the waves, Toby stood at the edge of the ancient city, staring up toward the surface. The ocean around him felt charged, like the moment before a great storm. His people were ready to fight. The Zuma kingdom was ready to strike. Soraya floated beside him. What are you going to do? Toby didn't answer right away. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just Toby, the historian. He wasn't just a man caught between two worlds. He was a king. And he had a decision to make. Would he lead his people into war, or find a way to break the cycle of hatred before it was too late? The tides were rising. And soon, the world would change forever. Toby felt the ocean currents pulling at his soul, whispering of war, of destiny, of the battle that loomed ahead. But deep inside, something resisted. He had spent his entire life studying history, not making it. But now, he was no longer an observer. He was at the center of an ancient conflict, one that had existed long before he was ever born. And the choice he made in the coming days would determine the fate of both the land and the sea. Soraya reached for his hand. You don't have to carry this alone. Toby turned to her, searching her deep blue eyes for an answer. I was born on land, but my blood belongs to the ocean. How do I choose between them? She squeezed his fingers. Maybe you don't have to. A council of the tides. Deep in the glowing city of the merfolk, the council of elders had gathered. Old sea lords, their scales dulled with age, sat in a circle within the coral hall. Warriors stood nearby, gripping spears made from sharpened bone and pearl. At the center of it all, Toby sat on the throne of the tides, the golden trident resting across his lap. The council leader, an elder merwoman named Naya, studied him with sharp eyes. The Zuma kingdom is preparing for war. They will strike first. A warrior with jagged scars across his chest slammed his fist against the stone table. Then let them come. The ocean has waited too long. It is time for vengeance. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. But Toby raised his hand, and the room fell silent. I will not lead my people into a battle based on anger alone, he said firmly. We are not the monsters they believe us to be. Another elder, a thin, silver-scaled merlord named Oban, sighed. The land dwellers will never accept you as their ruler, Toby. You are the Tideborn king. To them, you are a threat. A curse. Toby clenched his jaw. He knew they were right. The Zuma kingdom had feared the ocean for generations. The priests had spent centuries teaching that the sea was dangerous, that its creatures were unnatural. But did it have to be this way? Toby turned to Soraya. I need to go to them. A shocked silence filled the coral hall. Naya's brows furrowed. You would risk your life to speak with those who want to destroy you. Toby took a breath. If we fight now, there will be no turning back. The ocean and the land will be enemies forever. But if I go to them, if I show them that I am not their enemy, maybe we can stop this before blood is spilled. Soraya nodded in quiet support, but many of the warriors looked unconvinced. The scarred warrior spat, they will kill you before you speak a single word. Toby's grip tightened around his trident. Then I'll make sure they listen. The march of the Zuma warriors. Meanwhile, on land, the Zuma kingdom was already on the move. Thousands of warriors gathered along the cliffs, their spears gleaming under the morning sun. The royal priests chanted at the temple, calling upon the spirits of their ancestors for strength. At the front of the army, King Alumide stood tall in his golden robes, his face like carved stone. Beside him, the high priest of Zuma held an ancient staff decorated with shark teeth and woven charms. The ocean has risen, the priest said. The cursed prince has returned. If we do not stop him, the sea will consume the land. The warriors struck their spears against the ground, chanting, "For Zuma! For the land! For the spirits!" King Alumaid lifted his staff, eyes locked on the horizon where the ocean met the sky. We march at dawn. A risky gamble. That night, beneath the silver glow of the moon, Toby swam toward the shore alone. Soraya had begged him not to go. The warriors had argued that it was suicide. But Toby knew that if he brought an army to the surface, there would be no peace. So, he came as himself. No guards. No warriors. No weapons, except for his voice. The moment his feet touched the sand, he felt a strange sense of déjà vu. This land had once been his home. He had once walked these shores as a man. Now, he was something else. As he stepped forward, the Zuma warriors appeared, surrounding him with spears raised. Their eyes were wide with fear and fury. From behind them, King Alumaid emerged. His face was calm, but his hand was tight around the hilt of his sword. "You have no place here, sea creature," the king said coldly. Toby met his gaze. "I was born here." The warriors murmured in confusion. The king narrowed his eyes. "You are no man. You are a curse." Toby took a deep breath. "I am Toby. And I was once a prince of Zuma." A stunned silence fell over the warriors. Even the king hesitated. Toby took another step forward. "The ocean does not want war. I do not want war. But if you attack, my people will defend themselves. And there will be no turning back." King Alumaid studied him carefully. "Why should I believe you?" Toby lifted his hands, showing that he carried no weapon. "Because I chose to come here alone. That is not the action of an enemy." For the first time, doubt flickered across the king's face. The warriors exchanged uncertain glances. The high priest frowned but remained silent. For a moment, it seemed like the tide was turning. Then, an arrow shot through the air. It moved too fast for Toby to dodge. The moment it pierced his shoulder, pain exploded through his body. He staggered backward, gasping as golden blood, not red, but shimmering gold, spilled onto the sand. The warriors shouted in confusion. Toby's vision blurred, and as he collapsed to his knees, he heard a single, whispered voice in his mind. "The land will never accept you, Toby. The sea is where you belong." The ocean roared behind him. The tide was rising. And now, war was inevitable. Toby's breath came in sharp gasps as he clutched his wounded shoulder. The golden blood oozing from the arrow wound shimmered in the moonlight, staining the sand beneath him. The air was thick with silence, heavy with uncertainty. The Zuma warriors hesitated. King Alumaid's jaw tightened. His grip on his sword wavered, his mind racing as he struggled to understand what he had just witnessed. This was not human blood. Toby wasn't just a man. He wasn't just a merfolk. He was something more. The high priest's voice cut through the silence like the blade of a dagger. "See. He bleeds gold. He is not one of us." The warriors' fear returned in an instant. One by one, they raised their spears again. Toby tried to stand, his vision blurring, but the pain in his shoulder sent another wave of dizziness crashing over him. He fell back onto the sand, helpless. A second arrow was knocked. A Zuma warrior pulled back the bowstring, his hands shaking. His orders were clear. "Kill the monster." "Enough." The king's voice rang across the battlefield. The archer froze. The warriors lowered their weapons slightly. Even the high priest, who had been fanning the flames of fear, hesitated at the raw command in King Alumaid's voice. The king stepped forward, his sharp gaze locking onto Toby. "You are wounded," he said, his voice carefully measured. You came alone, without an army. You did not strike back, even when you were attacked. He studied the golden blood dripping from Toby's fingers. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tell me, the king demanded, his voice quiet but firm. What are you? Toby swallowed hard. His chest ached from the strain of keeping himself upright. I am the past you tried to forget, he said hoarsely. I am the prince you cursed. I am the son of this land, and the son of the sea. Gasps rippled through the warriors. Some whispered prayers. Others backed away in fear. King Al-Yamid said nothing. But his silence was not a refusal. It was consideration. The high priest, however, saw the king's hesitation and knew he had to act before doubt settled in. Do not be fooled, he spat, stepping forward. He is the cursed one. The ocean has sent him to deceive you. He is neither man nor mare. He is a demon. The warrior's unease returned, and the archer lifted his bow once more. But before he could release the arrow, a wave rose from the ocean behind them. A towering wall of water, dark and shimmering, surged forward, and from its heart, Soraya emerged. Her eyes glowed with raw fury. The ocean roared at her back, and the water coiled around her like living serpents, waiting for her command. She looked upon Toby, her love, her king, wounded and kneeling in the sand. And something inside her snapped. You dare harm him. Her voice was not human, not mortal. It was the voice of the sea itself, vast, ancient, and filled with wrath. The warriors stumbled back. Even the high priest flinched. Soraya lifted her hands. The sea obeyed. A tidal wave began to rise behind her. King Al-Yamid's eyes widened in horror. The Zuma warriors braced themselves. Toby, still kneeling, forced himself to gasp out a single word. Soraya, stop. The mermaid hesitated. Her glowing eyes flickered toward him, her rage warring with her love. The waves trembled in the air, poised between destruction and retreat. The entire world held its breath. And in that moment, Toby made his choice. He gritted his teeth, pushed against the pain, and forced himself to rise to his feet. The warriors stared in awe as his form shifted before their eyes. His human skin faded, revealing glistening scales. His legs weakened, nearly collapsing into a powerful mare tail. His eyes turned from brown to deep, endless blue, the color of the ocean itself. And when he finally spoke, his voice carried across both land and sea. There will be no war. Soraya blinked. But they. Toby turned to face King Al-Yamid directly. The ocean could destroy this land in an instant, he said. But I don't want that. He placed a hand over his wound, where his golden blood still dripped. I came here alone to stop this before it began. But someone wanted war. Someone wanted me dead before I could even speak. His gaze slid toward the high priest. The older man stiffened. Toby narrowed his eyes. Who fired the arrow? The warriors exchanged nervous glances. Toby stepped forward, ignoring the pain. Who fired the arrow? He repeated. The archer lowered his bow. His hands shook. And then, he pointed at the high priest. It was him, the archer whispered. He gave the order. The crowd gasped. Toby's heart pounded as he turned to King Al-Yamid. The king's face darkened with realization. The high priest had never wanted peace. He had only ever wanted war. And now, his deception had been exposed. King Al-Yamid slowly turned toward the priest. His voice was low and dangerous. Is this true? The high priest opened his mouth to lie. But before he could speak, the ocean moved. A powerful tentacle of water surged forward, wrapping around the priest's legs. He gasped, his arms flailing, but the water dragged him toward the sea. toward Soraya, toward judgment. The warriors did not move to stop it. The king did not move to stop it. Toby stepped forward, meeting Soraya's gaze. He saw the rage in her, the old, ancient anger of the ocean itself. And he whispered, "Let him go." Soraya hesitated. Toby placed a hand on her arm. He wanted war. But we are better than him. Slowly, the water released the priest. He collapsed onto the sand, coughing and trembling. Defeated. Soraya turned back to the warriors. "Your king must decide," she said coldly. "Will you continue to fight a war that never should have begun? Or will you let him lead you to peace?" All eyes fell on King Alyamide. The king looked at his warriors. At the wounded prince who had once been his own blood. At the mermaid who could destroy them all in an instant but had chosen not to. Then, slowly, King Alyamide knelt. He placed his royal sword in the sand. And he bowed his head. "We have fought the ocean for too long," he said. "Perhaps it is time to stop." The warriors lowered their weapons. Toby's heart pounded. For the first time in centuries, land and sea were at peace. The moon hung low over the ocean, its silver light reflecting on the calm waves. The battle had been avoided, but the air was still heavy with uncertainty. The Zuma warriors had lowered their weapons, and King Alyamide had bowed his head, acknowledging a peace long denied. Yet, as the ocean lapped at Toby's feet, he could feel the change deep within his bones. His skin tingled, scales shimmering faintly beneath the surface. His legs felt weaker, as though the earth no longer wished to support them. His heart ached, not from his wound, but from the slow, steady pull of the sea. Soraya was beside him, watching. She had always known this day would come. The moment he kissed the ocean, fate had been sealed. Now, she could see the struggle in his eyes. Toby turned toward the king. "You've accepted peace," he said. "But what happens now? The land and sea have been enemies for centuries. The warriors still fear the merfolk. The merfolk still distrust the humans." He exhaled sharply. A single bowstring pulled too tightly can snap at any moment. King Alyamide nodded solemnly. "You are right." He turned to his warriors, his voice carrying authority. "This peace will not be easy. But the bloodshed ends today. If I, a king, can bow to the ocean, then so can all of you." The warriors exchanged uncertain glances. One of them, a tall, broad-shouldered man named Femi, stepped forward. His brow furrowed. "And what of him?" He pointed to Toby. "He is not like us anymore. And he is not like them." The murmurs returned. Toby's stomach twisted. Soraya tensed beside him. She had expected this. King Alyamide's eyes darkened. "Toby was once my nephew. He was once a prince of this land." He sighed deeply. "But now, I do not know what he is." Neither did Toby. Who was he now? A historian? A prince? A mermaid? The ocean whispered, calling him back. His legs trembled. Soraya's fingers brushed against his. "You're changing faster now," she murmured. "The more time you spend on land, the harder it will be to resist the sea." Toby's throat tightened. He could feel it, the slow unraveling of his past self. Memories slipping like water through his fingers. He turned back to the king. "You don't trust me," he said. "You don't know what I've become." King Alyamide was silent. "I don't know either." Toby clenched his fists. "But I know I am the only one who can stand between the two worlds. The only one who understands both." The Zuma warriors watched him closely. The merfolk, still hidden beneath the waves, waited just as cautiously. And in the growing silence, a single question hung heavy in the air. Could Toby truly unite land and sea, or would he be forced to choose one over the other? Toby sat on the shore, his legs stretched out before him, watching the ocean pull at the sand. He felt it pulling at him too. The transformation was happening faster now. The golden glow of his wound had faded, but his skin was changing, shifting like liquid bronze. Faint scales shimmered under the moonlight, appearing in patches along his arms, his neck, his back. The longer he stayed on land, the heavier he felt, as if gravity itself was rejecting him. Soraya knelt beside him, her expression gentle yet firm. "You don't have much time." Toby let out a slow breath. "I know." Behind them, the Zuma warriors had retreated to their village, though many still watched from a distance. King Alyamide had said nothing after the battle. His acceptance of peace did not mean trust. And trust, that would take time. Soraya's fingers brushed over his wrist, tracing the outline of the scales that had begun to bloom there. "You belong with me," she whispered. Her voice was a song, the kind that stirred the soul. And for a moment, Toby wanted to believe her. But when he looked back at the land, the village, the people, the world he had always known, he felt something twisting inside him. "I can't just leave," he murmured. Soraya frowned. "You are becoming one of us. Soon, you will no longer be able to walk on land at all. The longer you resist, the harder it will be. And if you stay too long," she hesitated, "the transformation might become painful." Toby swallowed. Would he wake up one day and find his legs gone, his body frozen in half-formed agony? Would he collapse in the village square, suffocating under the weight of air? The ocean wanted him. The land was unsure. And he was stuck in between. "What if I don't belong anywhere?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Soraya's fingers tightened around his wrist. "You belong with me." And yet, the Zuma people were his people too. Toby pressed his palm into the sand, feeling the grains slip through his fingers. He had spent his whole life chasing history, uncovering the past, only to discover he was the past. A prince who had loved a mermaid. A man cursed to become what he once longed for. His gaze drifted toward the village, where a few figures still watched. One of them stepped forward. Femi. The warrior who had doubted him most. Toby forced himself to stand, ignoring the strange weakness in his legs. "Wait here," he told Soraya. She hesitated, her ocean blue eyes filled with something unreadable. "Be careful," she whispered. Toby nodded and walked toward Femi, the sand cold beneath his feet. The warrior crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "You didn't leave." Toby exhaled. "Not yet." Femi studied him. "The ocean is calling you, isn't it?" Toby didn't answer. Femi's gaze flickered to the faint scales on his arms, then back to his face. "You say you want peace between land and sea," he said. "But how can you unite two worlds when you're caught between them yourself?" Toby had no answer. Because he didn't know. He had thought peace would be enough. But peace was not trust. Peace was not belonging. And in the quiet between them, he realized. He had a choice to make. The night air was thick with the scent of salt and earth. Toby stood between the world he had known and the one pulling him away. Femi's words echoed in his mind. How can you unite two worlds when you're caught between them yourself? It was a question Toby could not yet answer. Femi's gaze remained sharp, watching him closely. "You don't know where you belong, do you?" Toby clenched his fists. "Would you, if your body was turning into something you never asked for?" Femi's expression didn't change, but something softened in his eyes. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I do know that the people here are afraid. Not just of the merfolk, but of you." Toby's breath hitched. "Of him? They think you will betray them," Femi continued. "That one day, when your scales cover your body, you will vanish into the ocean and never look back. Would they be wrong?" The thought terrified him. He had spent his life searching for forgotten history, but now, he was becoming history itself. A whisper of water stirred behind him. Soraya. Toby turned to find her standing at the water's edge, moonlight casting a silver glow over her figure. Her long, dark hair flowed like waves, and her deep blue eyes were filled with quiet longing. "You don't have much time," she murmured. "Your body is changing faster than you realize. Soon, you won't be able to stay on land without pain." Toby swallowed. "And if I choose to stay?" Her gaze flickered with something close to sadness. "You can't stop what's happening, Toby." A sharp pang shot through his legs. He stumbled, clutching his knee as a wave of burning numbness spread through his body. Soraya rushed to his side, placing a cool hand on his arm. "It's starting." Toby gritted his teeth, the pain rippling through his bones. It felt like something inside him was unraveling, reforming. His legs trembled, and for a brief, horrifying moment, he couldn't feel them at all. Soraya's voice was urgent. "You need to come with me. The ocean will ease the pain." Femi's voice rang out behind him. "And if he does, what then?" Soraya looked up, her expression unreadable. "Then he will belong where he was always meant to be." Femi stepped forward, fists clenched. "That's not an answer." Toby squeezed his eyes shut, struggling to breathe. Land. Sea. Both were pulling him in opposite directions, but his body could only follow one. Femi spoke again, his voice lower this time. "If you leave now, the people of Zuma will never see you as one of us again." Toby's chest tightened. Soraya's grip on his arm was gentle, but firm. "Come with me," she whispered. The ocean hummed in his blood. The land burned beneath his feet. And as the night stretched on, Toby realized he had to choose. Toby clenched his fists, fighting against the pull of the ocean. His body screamed for the water. Every nerve, every muscle begged for relief, for the cool embrace of the sea that would silence the pain spreading through his legs. But his heart still beat for the land, for the people, for the life he had built before this curse had awakened. He would not give in. Not yet. Soraya's grip tightened on his arm. "Toby, you're resisting what you were meant to become." Her voice was pleading, yet firm. "If you stay on land, your body will suffer." Toby inhaled sharply, forcing himself to stand taller despite the numbness creeping up his legs. He turned to Femi, who still stood with his arms crossed, watching. Watching and waiting. And behind him, in the distance, the village lights flickered like fireflies in the dark. They were waiting too. For his choice. For their prince to either return to them, or be lost forever. Toby met Soraya's gaze. "I don't want to abandon who I was," he said. "I can't." Soraya's eyes darkened with sadness. "You were always meant to be more. But what if I don't want to be?" His voice was desperate now, laced with pain and frustration. The tide rushed forward, licking at his ankles. The ocean was whispering to him, promising peace, promising belonging. All he had to do was step forward. But Toby took a step back. Away from the water. Soraya gasped softly. "Toby." He swallowed, his heart pounding. "I won't go." The pain in his legs flared, sharp and relentless, but he gritted his teeth. He would endure it. He had to. Because he was still human. And he would fight to stay that way. Femi's gaze flickered with something close to respect. Soraya looked away, her expression unreadable. The ocean roared in protest. The waves surged forward again, stronger this time, wrapping around his calves, trying to drag him in. But Toby held his ground. And for the first time since this curse began, he felt something shift, not in his body, but in his will. The ocean did not own him. And neither did fate. The ocean trembled. A low hum rippled through the waves, like the voice of something ancient and unseen. The night air thickened with an unnatural stillness, as if the sea itself had paused, watching, waiting. Soraya's lips parted slightly, her breath shallow. Toby could see it in her eyes, the storm rising behind them. "You don't understand what you're doing," she whispered. Toby's legs ached, his body yearned for relief, but he forced himself to stand firm. "I understand perfectly," he said, his voice raw. "I choose my people. I choose the land." Soraya's expression hardened. A shadow passed over her face, something unfamiliar, almost dangerous. "You think you can fight what's inside you? You think you can outrun the ocean's call?" Toby's heart pounded. "I can try." Soraya exhaled sharply, stepping closer. "And when your legs give out? When the pain becomes unbearable? When your body rejects the land and you can no longer breathe its air?" Her fingers brushed against his wrist, cold as the deep. "Will your pride still save you then?" Toby jerked his arm away, his pulse racing. "It's not pride. It's choice." Soraya's eyes flashed. "Choice," she repeated, her voice rising. "Do you think the ocean gave me a choice when I was cursed to wait for you? Do you think I wanted this?" Toby's breath caught. Soraya's fingers curled into tight fists. "I have waited centuries for you, Toby. I have endured loneliness, heartbreak, the endless pull of time, all for you. And now that you are here, you turn away." Toby's throat tightened. He had never thought about what this curse had meant for her. What it had cost her. But still. "Soraya," he said softly, "I didn't ask for this either." Her lips trembled. For a moment, just a moment, the anger in her eyes flickered into something else. Something fragile. And then, the ocean roared. The waves surged forward, slamming against the shore, the water rushing up his legs with terrifying force. Toby stumbled, his body seized with pain. Soraya raised a hand, and the water obeyed. "Toby," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Please. Don't fight me. Don't fight what we are." The tide tightened its grip. Toby gasped, his legs burning as the ocean tried to claim him. The weight of it was crushing, the pressure unbearable. But he still had a choice. Didn't he? Toby gasped as the water pulled at him, yanking his legs forward with an unnatural force. His knees buckled, and for a terrifying moment, he felt his body give in, his balance tipping toward the sea. No. He slammed his foot into the wet sand, gritting his teeth against the unbearable pain coursing through his limbs. His skin burned, the transformation fighting against his will. He could feel the bones in his legs shifting, twisting, as if they were no longer his own. Soraya's eyes were filled with desperation. "You're hurting yourself," she pleaded, stepping closer, her hair flowing like dark waves in the wind. "Toby, listen to me. This is what you were meant for. The more you resist, the worse it will get." The ocean rose behind her like a living thing, waves cresting higher, hungry and relentless. Toby clenched his fists. "You don't get to decide that for me." Soraya flinched. "I'm trying to save you. You're trying to make me something I'm not." The moment the words left his mouth, the ocean reacted. A massive wave crashed against the shore, spraying them both with icy water. The current tightened around Toby's legs, dragging him forward another step. He could feel it now, the pull deep inside him. The more he fought, the more his body betrayed him. He dropped to one knee, his breath ragged. His fingers dug into the sand, desperate for something solid. But the tide was stronger. His body was changing faster. Soraya knelt beside him, reaching out, her hands gentle now. "Please, don't do this to yourself," she whispered. "I love you, Toby. I always have." Toby's heart pounded. The words hit him like a wave. The past, the love story he had uncovered, was more than a tale. It was his own. Somewhere deep inside, a part of him remembered. The moonlit nights in the cove. The laughter between stolen kisses. The promise made beneath the stars. No matter what, I will always find you. Toby shook his head violently. No. That was another life. Another him. That love had already destroyed him once before. He would not let it happen again. Toby forced himself to stand, ignoring the searing pain in his legs. His vision blurred, his heartbeat thundered, but he still had his mind. His choice. Soraya's hands hovered near him, her expression heartbroken. Toby. He looked into her eyes, so full of sorrow, of longing, and said the only thing he could. I'm sorry. Then, with every ounce of strength he had left, he tore himself away from the water. The moment his feet left the tide, pain exploded through his body. He collapsed onto the sand, his chest heaving, his skin burning. The ocean screamed in protest. Soraya let out a soft, broken gasp. She took a step forward, then stopped. She couldn't follow him onto the land. They both knew it. Toby lifted his head, meeting her gaze. A silent war passed between them. She had lost him. And he had lost her. But the battle was far from over. The ocean had let him go, for now. But it would not stop calling. And neither would she. Toby lay on the damp sand, his chest heaving as he fought to catch his breath. Every inch of his body burned, as if fire and ice were warring beneath his skin. The pain was unbearable, yet he had won, for now. The ocean had let him go. But it had not given up on him. Soraya stood just at the water's edge, her gaze fixed on him with a mix of sadness and determination. The waves lapped at her feet, waiting, expectant. Toby pushed himself up onto his elbows, his arms trembling. His legs still felt wrong, almost numb, but he refused to look at them. If he saw what was happening to him, if he saw the truth, he might lose the will to fight. Soraya tilted her head, studying him. You can't outrun this, Toby. His jaw clenched. I already have. A soft, bitter smile crossed her lips. For now. A gust of wind carried the scent of salt and seaweed through the air. The ocean whispered in a language only Toby could hear, its voice curling around his mind like a lingering memory. Come back. You belong here. You are not whole without us. Toby shut his eyes tightly and pressed his hands into the sand. He needed to ground himself. To remind himself that he was still human. Still of the land. Soraya stepped forward, but she couldn't cross the boundary. She hovered at the place where the water met the shore, unable to step onto dry land. A prisoner of the very world that called to him. Toby, she murmured, her voice barely above the whisper of the waves. You don't have to fight me. You don't have to fight what's inside you. Toby opened his eyes. His breath was ragged, but his resolve had not wavered. I'm not just fighting you, he admitted. I'm fighting myself. A flicker of something crossed Soraya's face. Understanding. She knew what it was like to fight something beyond her control. She had been trapped in the ocean's grasp for centuries, waiting for him. Waiting for this moment. But Toby refused to let the past decide his future. He forced himself to his feet, his legs trembling beneath him. The pain was sharp, but he held firm. He would not let the ocean see him weak. Soraya's expression hardened. I won't stop, she said softly. I will do whatever it takes to bring you back. Toby's heartbeat quickened. The warning in her voice was clear. She had tried to convince him. She had tried to plead with him. Now she would fight for him. And the ocean would fight with her. Thunder rumbled in the distance, the wind picking up. The tide swelled higher, as if it, too, was preparing for war. Toby had won this battle. But the war between land and sea had only just begun. The wind howled. The waves churned. The ocean was angry. Toby stood his ground, his feet sinking slightly into the wet sand as he faced Soraya. Her once soft eyes had hardened into something unyielding, unwavering. She would not let him go. Lightning flashed in the distance, a jagged crack of white against the black sky. The air grew thick with moisture, heavy with power. Soraya lifted her hand. The ocean answered. A massive wave surged forward, towering over him, its crest shimmering under the pale moonlight. It moved too fast, too deliberate, to be natural. This was her doing. Toby's breath hitched. She's serious. Soraya's voice rose above the roaring tide. I won't watch you suffer, Toby. I won't watch you fade away when the ocean can make you whole. Toby took a step back, his pulse hammering. I told you, I don't want this. But the ocean did not care what he wanted. The wave collapsed. Water slammed into him, knocking him off his feet and dragging him back toward the sea. His arms flailed, his fingers scraping against the sand, trying desperately to hold on to anything. But the tide was too strong. Cold, salty water rushed over him, swallowing him whole. Darkness. Silence. Depth. Toby's lungs screamed for air. He kicked, he fought, but something wrapped around his ankle, pulling him deeper. Soraya's silhouette appeared in the water, watching. Waiting. Stop fighting, her voice echoed through his mind. Toby gritted his teeth and thrashed harder, his chest tightening. Breathe, Toby. His instincts begged him to hold on, to resist. But the deeper he sank, the more his body betrayed him. A stinging heat spread through his throat, down his sides, along his ribs. Something shifted beneath his skin. A sharp pain flared on his neck. Slits. Gills. Toby's eyes widened in horror as he realized what was happening. His body was adapting to the water. The transformation was winning. No. With one final, desperate burst of energy, he kicked upward and broke the surface, gasping for air. The salty wind burned his lungs. His arms trembled as he dragged himself onto the shore once more, barely escaping the ocean's grasp. He collapsed, coughing violently, his chest heaving. His hands trembled as he reached up, touching the sides of his neck. The gills were still there. Small, delicate slits, like a cruel reminder of what he was becoming. Toby clenched his fists. No. He would not let this happen. Behind him, the waves retreated, but Soraya's voice carried over the wind. You can run, but you can't change what's already begun. Toby didn't turn around. But he knew. The fight for his humanity was far from over. Toby sat hunched over, his arms wrapped around himself as he shivered in the darkness. The wind howled through the trees lining the beach, whispering secrets of the ocean he wished he couldn't understand. He traced his fingers along the slits on his neck, feeling their strange, unnatural texture. His stomach twisted. This isn't real. This isn't happening. But it was. Every breath he took felt different now, deeper, cooler, sharper. He had barely made it out of the water, yet his body was still changing, reshaping itself into something no longer human. His pulse pounded in his ears. I have to stop this. I have to fight. But how? The ocean had a will of its own. And it wanted him back. Behind him, the waves crashed relentlessly against the shore. He didn't turn around. He didn't need to. He knew Soraya was still there, watching him from the tide. Waiting. Toby's jaw tightened. He was losing. Not just his body, his mind, too. The memories of the past, of another life, another love, were bleeding into him, making it harder to remember where one existence ended and the other began. He clenched his fists. No. He was Toby. He was not Prince Boma. He would not repeat the mistakes of the past. A flicker of movement caught his eye. He stiffened. From the shadows of the jungle, a figure emerged. Elder Osai. The old man, hunched with age but still sharp-eyed, stepped forward, his staff sinking into the wet sand with every step. His dark robes billowed in the wind, and his face, weathered like the bark of an ancient tree, held no surprise, only understanding. Toby swallowed hard. "You knew, didn't you?" His voice was raw. "You knew this was real?" Osai nodded slowly. The story of Boma and Soraya was never just a tale. It was a warning. Toby felt rage coil in his chest. "And you didn't tell me?" Osai sighed, kneeling beside him. "Would you have believed me if I had?" Toby opened his mouth, then closed it. No. He wouldn't have. The elder's gaze fell to the gills on his neck. His face remained unreadable. "The sea has already marked you." Toby's breath hitched. "You must decide quickly, child," Osai continued, his voice low. "There are only two paths left. The longer you remain in between, the more painful it will be." Toby's hands curled into the sand. "There has to be another way." Osai shook his head. "There is not." The ocean roared behind them, almost as if it were mocking him. Toby turned, his gaze meeting Soraya's from across the shore. The moonlight made her skin glow like polished pearls, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of pain and hope. Hope that he would come back to her. Hope that he would stop resisting. But could he? Could he still fight? Or had the war already been lost? Toby's chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. His hands trembled as he dug his fingers into the damp sand beneath him, trying to anchor himself to the land. Trying to hold on. But the sea was calling. It never stopped calling. "Come home. You belong here. You are mine." He clenched his jaw, forcing the whispers out of his mind. He wasn't the prince from the past. He was Toby, a historian, a man of reason, of fact. Yet facts had crumbled before his eyes. The folktale was real. The curse was real. And now, his body was proof of it. Elder Osai's voice cut through the night air. "You must decide, child. The ocean will not wait forever." Toby turned toward him, his breath unsteady. "I don't want to be a mermaid." The old man's dark eyes softened. "Then you must fight." Toby swallowed hard. "How?" Osai looked toward the waves, toward Soraya, still standing at the edge of the tide. The moonlight bathed her in an eerie glow, her long, dark, flowing hair rippling in the wind. She was watching them, waiting. "I have watched over this curse for many years," Osai said. "And I have seen those who resisted and those who surrendered." Toby's heart pounded. "And what happened to them?" The elder sighed. "Those who surrendered found peace. Those who resisted," his voice trailed off. Toby's stomach clenched. "They died." Osai said nothing. Toby shut his eyes. There had to be another way. His body was betraying him, changing more every day. He could feel it, the way his skin no longer felt right in the dry air, the way the water felt more like home than the land ever had. But he couldn't give in. Not yet. Not while there was still a chance. Soraya took a step forward, the water swirling at her feet. "Toby," she called softly, her voice like the rush of the tide. "You're suffering. I can end it." Toby's fists tightened. "By taking away my humanity." Soraya's gaze darkened. "You were never meant to be just human." A shudder ran through him. He wanted to yell at her, to tell her she was wrong. But wasn't she right? Hadn't he always felt a pull to the ocean? Hadn't he always felt like something was missing? He shook his head violently. "No. This wasn't him. This was the curse twisting his thoughts. "I won't come with you," he said through gritted teeth. Soraya's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then you will suffer." A gust of wind rushed over them, and the waves crashed higher. Osai stepped forward, placing a hand on Toby's shoulder. "There is one last hope," he said gravely. Toby turned to him, desperate. "What is it?" Osai hesitated. "The sea's claim can only be broken by the land itself." Toby frowned. "What does that mean?" The elder's face was grim. "The curse was woven into the tides, but the answer lies within the earth. There is an ancient place, hidden deep within the jungle, a sacred ground untouched by the ocean's reach." Toby's breath caught. "You think it can stop this?" "I do not know," Osai admitted. "But it is the only chance you have." Toby turned back to the sea, to Soraya. Her eyes flashed with something unreadable. Fear. Desperation. She knew what Osai was talking about. And she didn't want him to find it. The realization sent a spark of hope through Toby's chest. There is a way out. But could he reach it in time? The ocean's grip on him was growing stronger by the day. And Soraya wasn't going to let him go without a fight. Toby's breath hitched as he processed Elder Osai's words. A sacred place untouched by the ocean. A place that could save him. A spark of hope flared in his chest, but it was quickly doused by the low rumble of the waves behind him. He knew Soraya wouldn't let him go easily. He turned to her. She had stepped further onto the shore now, the water curling around her ankles like a restless spirit. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes held something dangerous. Fear. For the first time, he saw fear in her. She knew about the sacred place. She knew what it could do. And she was afraid he would reach it. Toby straightened, a new determination settling over him. He had been on the defensive for too long, letting the ocean push and pull him like driftwood. Not anymore. He turned to Elder Osai. "Where is this place?" The elder's gaze flickered toward the dense jungle beyond the beach. His voice was grave. "Deep in the heart of the forest lies the shrine of Okan. It is the oldest and most sacred place of our ancestors. The land there is pure, untouched by the sea's curse." Toby's fingers twitched. "And it can stop this." He gestured to the gills on his neck, to the faint shimmer of scales forming on his arms. Osai exhaled. "If anything can, it is Okan." A sharp gust of wind rushed past them, and the waves grew restless. Soraya's voice sliced through the tension. "Don't do this, Toby." He met her gaze. "Why?" "Because you're afraid I'll succeed." A flash of anger crossed her face. "Because you'll suffer." Toby shook his head. "I'm already suffering." Soraya took a step forward, her expression softening. "You think this is pain," she whispered. "The real pain is fighting something that was meant to be. You don't know how much it will hurt if you try to break the bond." Toby's jaw clenched. "Then I'll endure it." Soraya flinched. For the first time, she looked truly hurt. But Toby didn't have time to dwell on it. He turned back to Osai. "How do I get there?" The elder motioned toward the jungle. "Follow the river upstream until you reach the 3 stones. From there, head east. The shrine is hidden behind the old baobab tree." Toby nodded. Soraya's voice was soft, pleading. "Toby, please." But he had made up his mind. Without another word, he turned and ran toward the jungle. The jungle was alive. Cicadas hummed in the thick air. The leaves rustled, whispering secrets between the trees. Shadows stretched long beneath the towering canopy, twisting and shifting in the moonlight. Toby moved quickly, his feet pounding against the damp earth. Every breath burned in his lungs. His body felt wrong, like it wasn't built for this anymore. The land resisted him. Or maybe it was the ocean fighting back. Water still clung to his skin. The salt still burned in his blood. He couldn't escape it. Not yet. A low growl rumbled from the trees ahead. Toby skidded to a stop, his heart hammering. Glowing eyes peered at him from the darkness. Wolves. No, not wolves. Forest spirits. Their sleek bodies shimmered, blending with the shadows. Their eyes burned like fireflies, intelligent and ancient. Toby took a slow step back. One of the spirits lifted its head, sniffing the air. Then, in a voice that sounded like rustling leaves, it spoke. "You reek of the sea." Toby's pulse pounded. "I need to pass." The spirits shifted, blocking his path. "The ocean's mark is on you. The land will not welcome you." Panic flared in his chest. "Please. I don't belong to the sea. I don't want to." The leader tilted its head. "Curious. And yet it clings to you." Toby's hands trembled. He could feel the gills on his neck fluttering, desperate for water. He could feel his skin tingling, the transformation creeping forward. He was running out of time. The spirits circled him, their luminous eyes flickering like embers. "One question," the leader murmured. Toby swallowed hard. "What? If the ocean calls your name, will you answer?" The question made his breath catch. For a moment, the memory of the waves rushed through his mind. The feeling of weightlessness, of belonging, of something ancient and powerful waiting beneath the depths. He thought of Soraya. Of the sadness in her eyes. Of the love that had lasted centuries. The pull was there. It would always be there. But was it stronger than his will? Toby's hands curled into fists. "No," he whispered. "I won't answer." The spirits were silent. Then, slowly, the leader stepped aside. "Then go." Toby didn't hesitate. He ran. Behind him, the spirits melted back into the shadows, their glowing eyes watching. Whispering. "He fights. But for how long?" Toby's lungs burned as he ran. The jungle was thick, the air humid and heavy, but he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when he was so close. The distant rush of water filled his ears, the river. Elder Osai had told him to follow it upstream to the 3 stones. From there, he would find the shrine. But even as he ran, he felt something shifting. The ocean was angry. The gills on his neck fluttered, aching for water. His legs ached, not from exhaustion, but from something worse, change. He was running out of time. The trees thinned, revealing the river at last. It was wide and fast-moving, the moon casting silver ripples across the surface. Toby stumbled to the water's edge, panting. He scooped a handful of water to his lips, but the moment it touched his tongue, a voice echoed in his mind. "Come back." Toby gasped, nearly dropping the water. His reflection rippled in the current, but it wasn't his reflection at all. Soraya stared back at him. Her long dark hair swayed like seaweed, her eyes shimmering too brightly for this world. "Toby," she whispered, though her lips never moved. Toby's body tensed. She was in his mind. "I won't come back," he said through gritted teeth. Soraya's expression didn't change. "You think the land will save you?" Toby swallowed hard. "Yes." She sighed, her eyes filled with something he couldn't place, pity. Pain. "The ocean loves you, Toby." The words sent a chill down his spine. "You're fighting a battle you've already lost," Soraya continued softly. "Come back before it's too late." Toby's fingers dug into the dirt. "I am not yours to claim." Soraya's face darkened. The river surged. Water shot upward like grasping hands, wrapping around his ankles. Toby yelped, trying to pull free, but the current held him in place. Soraya's voice rang in his mind, sharp as a blade. You were mine before you were ever theirs. The water pulled. Toby fought. Panic exploded in his chest as he struggled against the grip of the river. He dug his hands into the mud, trying to resist, but the current was too strong. The ocean was trying to drag him back. No, he shouted. With one last desperate lunge, he grabbed a thick root jutting from the bank. His fingers burned as he fought against the pull of the river, muscles trembling. For a terrifying moment, he thought he'd lose. Then, the water let go. Toby collapsed onto the riverbank, gasping for air. The river stilled. Soraya's reflection was gone. But her words remained. You were mine before you were ever theirs. Toby forced himself to his feet. He couldn't let her words shake him. He had to move. He followed the river upstream, determined to reach the 3 stones before the ocean tried again. Because he knew now, Soraya wasn't just trying to stop him. She was trying to break him. And if he wasn't careful, she just might succeed. Toby pressed on, his body aching with every step. The jungle grew denser, the trees looming taller, their branches whispering in the wind. But then, he saw them. 3 massive stones, standing like ancient guardians at the river's edge. This was it. The place Osai had described. Toby slowed, catching his breath. The shrine was close now, hidden beyond the baobab tree. He took a step forward. And stopped. The air had changed. It was silent. Too silent. No insects. No rustling leaves. Just stillness. His skin prickled. Something was wrong. A shadow flickered between the trees. Toby turned sharply. Nothing. Another flicker, this time closer. His heart pounded. Something was here. Watching him. He stepped backward, his foot brushing against one of the stones. The ground erupted beneath him. A dark figure lunged from the shadows. Toby barely had time to react before he was thrown to the ground. Pain exploded through his body. Dazed, he looked up. And his blood ran cold. It wasn't a human. It wasn't a spirit. It was something else. Its skin shimmered like the deep sea, dark and smooth, its limbs too long, too sharp. Its eyes, black as the abyss, bore into him with a hunger that made his stomach churn. It opened its mouth, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Toby's breath hitched. A guardian of the ocean. Soraya wasn't just trying to break him. She had sent something to kill him. Toby's heart thundered in his chest. The creature hissed, stepping closer. Toby scrambled back, mind racing. He had no weapon. No way to fight. But he had to survive. Because if he didn't, then the ocean had already won. Toby's mind screamed for him to run, but his body was frozen. The guardian of the ocean loomed over him, its sleek form shifting with unnatural fluidity. Its webbed claws flexed, glistening with moisture, and its black eyes reflected nothing, no light, no soul, no mercy. Then, it moved. Faster than thought, the creature lunged. Toby barely rolled aside in time, his body hitting the damp earth as the guardian's claws slashed where his chest had been a second ago. The air hissed as if the creature's touch could burn through the jungle itself. Toby scrambled to his feet, heart hammering. He knew one thing for certain, he couldn't fight this. His only chance was to run. The shrine was close. If he could just... A sharp pain ripped through his leg. Toby cried out as he was yanked backward, the creature's claws wrapping around his ankle like iron shackles. Cold. The touch of the sea was cold. Toby gasped as the skin beneath the creature's grip tingled, then burned. His veins pulsed with something unnatural, something deep and dark and ancient. The transformation was accelerating. The guardian hissed, pulling him closer. Toby kicked wildly, panic blinding him, but the creature didn't budge. Its grip tightened, dragging him toward the river. Toward the ocean's call. No. Toby snarled, his fingers clawing at the mud, at the grass, at anything that would keep him on land. The river was so close now. He could hear it rushing, whispering his name in the voice of the tide. Soraya's voice. Come back, Toby. The guardian pulled harder. Toby's hands slipped. The river roared. He was going to be dragged back. No. No. With a burst of desperation, Toby reached down, grabbed a jagged rock, and slammed it into the creature's wrist. A terrible screech filled the air. The guardian's grip loosened. Toby didn't wait. Ignoring the pain in his leg, he kicked free and ran. Toby crashed through the undergrowth, his breath ragged. The jungle was a blur around him, branches snapping, roots nearly tripping him, but he kept moving. His leg ached where the guardian had grabbed him. His skin still tingled, his veins pulsing with something unnatural. The transformation had been sped up. If he didn't reach the shrine now, he might never reach it at all. Then, a clearing. And in the center, the baobab tree. It was ancient, its trunk wide enough to fit a dozen men standing shoulder to shoulder. Its roots curled like great serpents, and its leaves shimmered as though kissed by starlight. The shrine of Okan. Toby's chest heaved. He had made it. But behind him, a snarl. He turned sharply. The guardian had recovered. It stood at the edge of the clearing, its chest rising and falling, its black eyes locked onto him. But it did not step forward. It couldn't. The shrine's power held it back. Toby exhaled, his entire body shaking. Then, from above, a deep, rumbling voice. Why have you come? Toby's head snapped up. Atop the baobab tree sat an owl, but it was no ordinary bird. Its feathers were the color of aged silver, and its eyes held the weight of centuries. Toby swallowed hard. I came to break the curse. The owl tilted its head. Watching. Measuring. The curse of the sea cannot be broken easily. Toby took a step forward. Please. I was never meant to be part of the ocean. I just want to be human. The owl blinked, slow and knowing. Then it spoke. To reclaim your humanity, you must make a choice. Toby's breath caught. What choice? The owl's voice was calm. The sea has claimed you, but the land calls you back. One will destroy the other. You must decide, will you return to the waves and accept your fate? Or will you sever your bond with the ocean, even if it costs you everything? Toby's throat tightened. Even if it costs everything. The weight of the question settled over him like a stone. And deep in his heart, he knew. This was not just a choice of where he belonged. It was a choice of who he would become. The air in the clearing was thick with silence. Toby's heart pounded as he stared up at the silver-feathered owl. Its eyes, ancient and knowing, pinned him in place. You must decide. The words hung heavy in the night air, wrapping around him like the tides he had fought so hard to escape. Toby's hands clenched into fists. This was it. The moment that would define his fate. He had spent days running from the ocean's pull, fighting against the scales blooming on his skin, resisting the whispers of the waves. But now, the owl had made it clear, this wasn't just about escape. To truly reclaim his human self, he had to sever his bond with the sea completely. Even if it costs you everything. Toby's throat tightened. What does that mean? The owl blinked slowly. Measuring him. The ocean has wrapped itself around your soul. To break free, you must give up what ties you to it. Toby swallowed. And what is that? the owl's feathers shimmered under the moonlight. Your love. Toby stiffened. If you choose the land, Soraya will be lost to you forever. The memories, the past, the love that has spanned centuries, everything will be erased. His breath hitched. Erased. You will no longer remember her. Nor will she remember you. Toby's mind reeled. The love that had once been a legend, the love that had cursed him, pulled him into this battle between land and sea, would be gone. He would wake up in the village, human once more, with no recollection of Soraya, of his past life, of the ocean's call. And Soraya would forget him too. His chest ached. Soraya had fought to bring him back. She had whispered his name in the waves, waited for him in the depths. She had never given up on him. Could he truly just let her go? Toby closed his eyes. He had fought for this. He had fought to remain human. But if he took this path, would it truly be a victory? A shift in the air. A ripple in the water. And then, a voice, soft as the waves. Toby. His eyes flew open. Soraya stood at the edge of the clearing. Her dark hair flowed like the tide, her eyes shimmering with the depths of the ocean. She was barefoot, the grass wilting beneath her toes, the sea's mist clinging to her skin. She had come for him. Toby's heart ached. Soraya. She stepped closer. The guardian behind her remained still, waiting, watching. Toby, she whispered again. Her voice held so much pain. Please don't do this. Toby swallowed hard. I can't. Yes, you can. Soraya's voice cracked. You don't have to choose the land. You don't have to forget me. Toby's hands trembled. I don't want to forget you, Soraya, but... Tears glistened in her eyes. But you will. Her words cut through him. You don't understand, Toby. If you let me go, it won't just be you that forgets. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. I will forget too. I won't know why I feel so empty, why my heart aches every time I hear the waves. Her voice wavered. I won't know that I once loved you. Toby felt the weight of her words like a crushing tide. He had fought so hard to resist the ocean. But had he ever stopped to ask himself why he was fighting? Had it been out of fear? Or had it been because he truly did not belong in the sea? Soraya reached for his hand. Toby, we can be together. Just come back with me. His fingers twitched. Her hand was so warm. So real. Did he really want to let go of this? The silver-feathered owl watched. Silent. Waiting. The guardian of the sea watched. Still. Expectant. Toby stood between two worlds. One step forward, and he would be lost to the ocean forever. One step back, and he would forget the love that had spanned centuries. A choice. A sacrifice. Toby's breath shuddered. His heart pulled in two directions. And finally, he made his choice. The world around Toby held its breath. The silver-feathered owl, perched atop the sacred baobab tree, watched him with piercing eyes. The guardian of the sea stood at the edge of the clearing, its webbed fingers twitching, ready to drag him back beneath the waves. And Soraya stood before him, her eyes pleading, her hand outstretched. Toby, she whispered, voice trembling like the wind before a storm. Come back with me. Her fingers brushed his, warm and damp from the sea's embrace. Toby's breath hitched. His entire body ached with the weight of the decision before him. To stay meant forgetting. Forgetting Soraya. Forgetting their love. Forgetting the reason why the sea called to him in the first place. But to go back. To return to the ocean. He would lose his humanity forever. The land would reject him. His family would never see him again. His village would forget his name, and the stories of the prince who once loved a mermaid would fade into nothing more than whispers of a forgotten legend. Two worlds. Only one path. The owl's voice, deep and ancient, rumbled from above. Choose, child of the land and sea. Your fate is yours to decide. Toby swallowed hard. He could feel the scales beneath his skin, the faint ache in his bones as the ocean called him home. But he could also feel his heartbeat, strong, steady, human. He turned to Soraya, searching her face. The love in her eyes was undeniable. But so was the fear. Toby knew, if he chose to leave, if he chose to become human again, it wouldn't just break his own heart. It would shatter hers too. And yet, if he chose the sea, would he still be himself? Would he still be Toby? Or would the ocean take what little remained of his human soul? Tears burned in his eyes. It was time. Time to decide. Toby inhaled deeply. And then he spoke. I. The moment the word left his lips, the world reacted. The ground trembled. The wind howled through the trees. And the ocean roared. Soraya's grip on his fingers tightened. Toby, wait. But it was too late. The decision had been made. The silver-feathered owl spread its wings, its eyes glowing like twin moons. So be it. A blinding light erupted from the sacred baobab tree, swallowing Toby whole. He felt his body change. Felt something being torn away. His mind screamed. His soul burned. And then, darkness. Silence. A void where there was once love, once longing, once Soraya. And when the light faded, Toby collapsed. Toby awoke to the sound of rustling leaves. The air was warm, carrying the familiar scent of damp earth and village fires. He blinked groggily, his head heavy as though he had been asleep for an eternity. Where was he? Slowly, he pushed himself up, his fingers digging into the soft soil beneath him. His body felt different. The ache in his bones was gone. The burning pull of the ocean, the whisper of the tides in his mind, all gone. His skin was smooth. No more scales. No more webbed fingers. No more transformation. Toby was human again. His heart pounded. It had worked. He had won. But something felt wrong. He pressed a hand to his chest, breathing in deeply. There was an emptiness there, a hollow space he couldn't quite explain. Like something was missing. He furrowed his brow, rubbing his temples. Why did it feel like there was a name on the tip of his tongue? A face he should remember. A voice, whispering to him from beneath the waves. Toby frowned. He must have been dreaming. Right. Far beyond the shores, in the deepest part of the ocean, a mermaid sat alone. Her long, dark hair flowed like the current, her silver eyes vacant as she stared into the vast emptiness of the deep. She was a queen of the sea. A ruler of the tides. But she could not remember why her heart ached. She did not know why, when she closed her eyes, she felt as though something was missing. Something important. Someone she had once loved. But no matter how hard she tried, she could not remember his name. And so, the ocean continued its song. A song of love. A song of loss. A song of a prince who kissed a mermaid and forgot her forever. Toby wandered through the village, his feet following familiar paths, yet everything felt strange. People greeted him warmly, calling his name, welcoming him back from a journey he didn't remember taking. His mother, Amma, wept when she saw him. "My son. I thought you were lost forever." He smiled, comforted by her embrace. But deep inside, something was missing. That night, as he lay on his sleeping mat, staring at the wooden ceiling of his family's hut, a strange emptiness gnawed at him. Why did it feel like he had forgotten something important? Or someone? Outside, the wind carried the distant sound of waves crashing against the shore. Toby turned onto his side, shutting his eyes. But even in sleep, the ocean called to him. Far away, beneath the moonlit ocean, Soraya sat on a coral throne. Her silver eyes were blank, her heart strangely heavy. The sea creatures around her whispered about a great love, a prince who once belonged to the waves. But Soraya did not remember. And yet, each night, when she swam near the surface, the tides whispered a name. A name she did not know, yet felt in her soul. Toby. Her heart ached when she heard it. But why? She pressed a hand to her chest. Something inside her was missing. Something she needed to find. Toby's sleep was restless. Dreams filled his mind, visions of a girl with dark hair, silver eyes, and a voice like the ocean itself. She called to him. He reached for her. But every time their fingers touched, she disappeared into the waves. Toby woke up with a gasp, his heart pounding. The morning sun streamed through the hut's window, but he felt cold, as if he had been sleeping in deep water. That name. Soraya. It echoed in his head, pulling at something buried deep in his soul. He didn't know why. But he had to find out. The elders warned him against returning to the cove. The ocean almost swallowed you once, my son, Amma pleaded. Why tempt fate again? But Toby could not ignore the ache in his chest. Something was waiting for him. Something he had forgotten. He had to remember. So, at sunset, he followed the winding path through the jungle, his feet taking him toward the hidden cove. As he reached the shore, the ocean seemed to recognize him. The waves danced at his feet. The wind whispered through the palm trees. And then, the water began to glow. Far beneath the surface, Soraya felt the change. A pulse in the ocean. A call that reached into the deepest parts of her heart. She did not understand why, but she swam toward it. Faster and faster, her heart pounding, until she broke through the surface and saw him. A young man standing at the water's edge. His face was familiar. Soraya gasped. Toby. The name left her lips before she even realized she had spoken it. And at that moment, everything came flooding back. The memories. The love. The curse. Soraya clutched her chest. I remember. Toby's eyes widened as the glowing waves wrapped around his feet. And then, he remembered too. Toby stumbled forward, his heart racing. Soraya, he whispered. I. Tears streamed down her face as she reached for him. And this time, when their fingers touched, the ocean did not take her away. Instead, a golden light exploded around them. The waves shimmered. The sky swirled with magic. And the curse that had bound them for centuries shattered. The ocean no longer claimed Toby. And the land no longer rejected Soraya. They were free. Free to love. Free to be together. Free to choose their own fate. The village gathered on the shores to witness the impossible. A mermaid standing on the sand, her feet bare against the earth. A man embracing her, their love stronger than any magic. Toby turned to Soraya, his hands cradling her face. You're here, he whispered. You're really here. She smiled through her tears. And I'm never leaving again. The ocean and the land had once tried to keep them apart. But love had won. As the village cheered, as the waves danced in celebration, Toby and Soraya held each other close. This was not an ending. This was the beginning of a new legend. A story not of loss, but of love. A story that would never be forgotten. And as they stood beneath the setting sun, hand in hand, they knew their love would last forever.